Peace, power, prosperity, Rob Blackstorm. I'm doing it early today because I missed last night. Um, Shout out to everybody who is here. If you are new to the channel, definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this out. I'm coming with some real gnosis, some real knowledge. And what I want to do is thank everybody, all the new subscribers. A lot of new subscribers have came in since the Black Dot interview. Thank you so much for subscribing. I do appreciate it sincerely. What I do here, again, my name is Rob Blackstorm. What I do here is I teach spirituality, esoteric science, mysticism. Some call it the occult, primarily from a Afro-futuristic perspective or Afrocentric perspective, you could say, right? And I do this in a practical way. So using practical African spiritual esoteric technology to help you achieve spiritual personal development. So welcome if you are new here and if you are watching the replay. I'm going to go back to evenings after this particular live, but I wanted to knock this out because I know this was for the new moon and we still are in the shadow of the new moon in Capricorn. The new moon in Capricorn hit yesterday. But I actually had the privilege of going to watch Superman in IMAX yesterday. And Superman in IMAX is the biggest IMAX in America, in North America, is the one in Manhattan, Lincoln Center to be exact. So if you ever come to New York and you want to go see the movies and you want to see the biggest IMAX in the country, go to AMC Lincoln Square. And that AMC, it's like the screen is like the size of a building. It's about the size of a building, like a wide, tall building. It's very, very huge. It's immense. And I went to see Superman there, and I enjoyed the movie personally. I'm not going to do a review. What I want to do is do a deep dive. When I saw it yesterday, I saw some things that I wanted to talk about, so I ended up adding more slides. So without further ado, I think I've had you guys waiting long enough. Let's get into this actual presentation. All right. And smash that like button if you are here. All right. And let's get it started. So, Capricorn Full Moon, signs and symbols. The Superman ritual and the Dog Star. All right. The Superman ritual and the Dog Star. So let's continue moving. All right. There's a lot we have to get into. So I'm going to be moving through these kind of fast. A lot of reading. And I used, obviously, you see an image generator for a lot of these, but the words come from my soul. And this decode you're not going to get, from ChatGPT or anything. This is me looking at patterns in the universe, right? And looking at correlations, right? Looking at correspondences, the law of correspondences, as above, so below. So anything that you see in media is really just a display of a cosmic event that is occurring here on the terrestrial or through the crowd, so to speak, that has an impact on the world itself, right? So when you see things played out in media, the Diddy trial, certain news events, celebrity events, those are signs and symbols and archetypes to look at, right? They're archetypes of what the universe is playing out and what you need to see, what you need to do in order to affect and impact that particular event to your benefit, instead of being fearful, instead of being scared, instead of being gossipy, instead of, being judgmental. Use these events to your benefit so that you could harness this energy for yourself, transmute it like an alchemist, again, and use it to make manifest what you want. So this Superman, but again, there's other people who know our African spiritual esoteric sciences, aka the occult. And they use these things to manipulate us as well. And if you don't understand, and if you don't see the spell, and if you don't see the pattern, then you'll get caught up in basically the rapture, so to speak, and not the rapture of you going to heaven, the rapture of your mind being entrained and being subliminally implanted ideas, symbols, and signs that bypass your conscious mind and go straight into your subconscious mind, aka your soul, so that they harness in your mind. And basically it's like planting a seed with a sign and a symbol. Once those things take root and sprout, now next thing you know, there's something growing in your mind that you didn't even ask to be there, right? And you don't even realize it. So Superman ritual and the Dog Star. Let's continue. So when you look at these movies, right, like Superman, when you look at something like the Fantastic Four, I said to myself, why are these movies coming out? Why are these movies coming out on these dates, right? What is the reason why Superman is not coming out on July 4th? This is what sparked my first thought, right? I'm like, what? July 4th weekend is here. Why would a Superman, the mythos of Superman, that is so American at nature, that is so apple pie at nature, that is so American propaganda in the first place, right? Superman was created, I believe, by, some Jewish people. Matter of fact, I don't believe this is a fact. And this basically, Superman was always propaganda for America. And with America going through all these wars and all that's happening right now, it's a perfect time for a Superman movie to drop, right? To reinforce the idea of American colonialism, basically, of American power, of American domination, and of America being quote unquote good, right? Now, those of us that have common sense and those of us that are able to read between the lines, we know that's not true. But those of us that are susceptible to propaganda, aka the 85ers, like the homie Black Dot says, the knuckle draggers, right? Those who know not the truth and do not wish to know the truth, who have severe cognitive dissonance, right? They're not going to see that this is propaganda. They're not going to see what we're going to get into as far as the spell work and how deep it goes, right? But again, I said to myself, why is this not coming out on July 4th, right? And this led me to question an idea that I already had, which is these comic book movies, these superhero movies or superhero movies, right? Because they're all based on archetypes of Heru, the savior, right? The king, the one who overcomes hardship through willpower and strength and rises into their divinity, right? And Superman is definitely a divine archetype that we'll get into. But I said, why not? Why none of these two big blockbuster movies come out on July 4th? Well, Superman came out on July 11th, but really it came out yesterday. All new movies come out on the Thursday. So they advertise them for Friday, but they usually come out on that Thursday, right? So I saw Superman yesterday, which was the 10th. Today is the 11th. Obviously, well, not obviously, the new moon in Capricorn was the 10th. So this came out on a new moon. So I was watching this as the new moon peaked, to be honest, at 4:47 p.m. I was actually in the theater watching Superman as this new moon was peaking yesterday at 4:47 p.m. But we still have the new moon, as I looked at it, I think it's like 99%. So it's still very, very potent right now. So this still applies. So they put these movies out during new moon. So the Fantastic Four is going to come out on the new moon in Leo, right? And in the new moon in Leo, she's having a son. Okay. Full moon. Pardon me. Yesterday was we're in the shadow of a full moon. The new moon in Leo is when the Fantastic Four comes out. So the Fantastic Four is going to come out on what date is that? I don't got my contacts on. The 24th, right? So that's a Thursday as well. So they tie these superhero movies and you'll start to see the pattern. Lionheart, which was Marvel's latest offering, right, came out on the new moon in Cancer, right? That particular date, it hit on a Wednesday. It was a new moon in Cancer. So Lionheart dropped, right? So they tie these movies to celestial events. So as the saying goes, what did JP Morgan say? Millionaires don't use astrologies, right? Billionaires do, right? And let me see if I could pull that up, that quote, so you could see it. But it's very potent because a lot of people will say that, I'm talking hogwash and that, astrology is foolishness and things like that. But this is a quote by JP Morgan. This is not something that I'm just making up. So let me show you this real quick because I like to show and prove. This is the frame of mind that I come from, right? Being that I was once a God body, we had to show and prove, or else you would get beat down if you were just talking some trash, right? And a lot of the people that y'all follow here do not show and prove. They be telling y'all about all sorts of things that they cannot prove at all just because it sounds good. So let me share this. Right. So you see here, right? That's the quote by JP Morgan. Millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do. Okay. So this is the case when we come to something like this. These movies, they're using astrology. It's obvious, right? Again, you could check the dates. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Don't believe me. Go on your calendar, check the dates. New moon in Capricorn was obviously yesterday. This is obviously Friday, so it's peaking. And the full moon in Capricorn was yesterday, and the new moon in Leo will be Fantastic Four, where she is having a son. Sue Reed, the Invisible Woman, is having a son. The son represents Leo. All right. So I want you to understand these patterns. So when you see these movies come out, you want to understand what are they trying to say behind the veil of what they're giving you in the movie, because there's always a hidden message. There's always something behind it, and there's always propaganda and there's wisdom in it, right? There's always so there's two. They yin and yang you with these movies, right? They give you some propaganda and they give you some wisdom. This is what keeps you entrained when you're looking at these things. Let's keep it going. So the Superman and the full moon in Capricorn, how America uses astrology to crown its gods, and why July 10th is a charged ritual of power. Have you guys seen the moon lately? Right? Seen what happens or what's been happening with the moon? The moon looks incredibly close. Like, look at it tonight. I saw it yesterday when I was coming home, but look at it tonight, and it looks like it's incredibly close to the earth, right? It looks like super bright. And it's not a supermoon based on my research, but it looks like a supermoon. So this energy is really, really potent right now. I saw something, shout out to Divine Feminine Works. She posted something on her Instagram today, and she was saying that it's, fathers are going to be at play, which Superman is obviously a man. He's not a father, right? But he is a man. So it's a male archetype when we're looking at the energy, masculine energy, right? So it's a masculine energy archetype. And she was saying that fathers are going to be at play, right? And the dealing or the understanding or looking at fathers were going to be at play. Well, my daughter called me yesterday at 2 in the morning, and she read me to filth. When I tell you, she told me things I didn't know about myself, things that she was thinking, like she was just venting, and I had to just shut up and hear it, right? I had to hear my flaws. I had to hear the things that she saw about me. I had to understand the things that, I didn't think I was doing wrong, that I may have been affecting her, and trauma that she had that I didn't even realize that I had implied on her based on certain things in the past. Well, not implied, but of how I affected her with certain things I've done in the past. So if you are a father, right, you may go through something like this the next 3 days where your children, kind of try to check you. And you got to kind of let your ego go and really listen to what they're trying to say and not be too defensive. And that's what I tried to do. And I also have to tell her certain things to make our relationship more solid. But this full moon in Capricorn, it's about structure, right? It's about order. It's about discipline. And this is some of the things that have had come up in our conversation as well. So just want to touch on that. So let's continue going on. So July 10th, 2025, full moon in Capricorn. A full moon reveals what's hidden. It brings systems, power, and legacy into sharp light. Capricorn rules government, control, and tradition. And under Saturn's gaze, every empire is judged. Releasing Superman now is a ritual of divine timing, a cinematic crowning of America's eternal savior. All right. Now, the Superman movie was good. I enjoyed it, right? I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was a very unique story. It's very funny. Has a good amount of action, and I like the story overall. I thought it was well written. I think James Gunn did a great job. But at the same time, you may or may not know the Pentagon is actually in this movie. Like, they show a picture of the Pentagon. So the Pentagon is basically America's pentagram, and a pentagram is used in magic, in quote unquote occult circles, to cast spells. The Pentagon has an arm, right? The Pentagon has an arm of an entertainment division where they consult with movies, right? Big movies like this, they consult. They tell them what they could put in it, what they can take out, right? One of the movies that they talk about, like a movie like Top Gun, right? That's one of the movies they reference. But they do this with all these big blockbuster movies, right? They tell you what they could put in, and they always sprinkle a little something, little propaganda in there, right? A little spell, a little ritual to harness your mind when you're watching that silver screen, right? Which represents Mercury, communication. When you're watching that silver screen, is designed to keep you entranced. In fact, scientific fact, when you're watching a movie, when all of y'all are in the movie theater, your brains sync. So when you're watching a movie, your brains actually sync together. So everybody's brains are locked as one, which is what makes the spell even more potent. With spell work, spellcraft, this is why they have covens, right? This is why or covens or covens, right? This is why they have, secret societies, right? They do rituals, right? Certain dark arts, so to speak, together, right? You come together to make things happen. Indigenous rituals are groups of people coming together, chanting, humming, right? Drumming, right? Burning flames, doing certain things, right? Making certain movements and things like that, right? In order to harness energy, in order to make more energy. Like, when you walk in a room and there's a bunch of black people in the room, so to speak, and when you walk in that room, you'll say, oh, it's hot in here, right? You might say, oh, it's hot in here, right? And it's because there's a lot of heightened energy, right? There's a lot of solar energy. Melanin absorbs light and converts light into energy. That's what melanin does. It's no different than Black Panther suit. So when you are watching movies, right, it's very important that you have an open third eye. You're not just watching it like somebody who's dumb, deaf, and blind. You have to watch these movies and these films with an open eye to really see what the ritual is being cast and how you could, again, use this to your benefit, which we'll get into. So when we're talking about, so Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Capricorn is the god of time, law, order, and judgment. Saturn's energy builds empires, but it also destroys false thrones. It rewards structure, sacrifice, and legacy, but punishes illusion, weakness, and decay. So this is the most serious moon of the year, and Superman is being placed on the world stage beneath its gaze. So who is Superman really? Superman is not just a hero. He is America's cosmic messiah, an alien savior sent from the stars to defend Earth. Does that sound familiar? Right? Our Dogon ancestors told us that our Dogon ancestors told us that we come from Sirius B, right? By the way of Orion's belt. Or we come from the Sirius star system, Sirius A, B, and C. And we descended here as fish, the Nomo, which has ties to Atlantis. Atlantis is very real. There's a book called, being that we're actually still, even though the Sirius Gateway was from July 4th to the 7th, it still is on its, helical rising. If I said that wrong, correct me in the comments, but it's helical rising, which really occurs in August, where it's at its max peak, right? And a lot of revolutionary acts from Nat Turner to Denmark Vesey, right? Like if you look up Google Black August, you'll see there's been a lot of revolutionary acts in August because of that star Sirius's energy, right? But this is the same motif of us, right? Those of us that are carbon colored, right? Those of us that are carbon coded, right? Those of us that are quote unquote 9 ether, right? That is where we come from, right? Doesn't mean that we're discriminating against people from other cultures, other races, anything like that, right? That's not what we do, right? We're here to be the makers, the owners, the cream of the planet Earth, fathers of civilization, and gods of the universe, right? And that is for us to now come through and reclaim our thrones. So it's not about saying we're better, right? It's not about saying they're worse. It's not about saying other cultures are, beneath us, but it's about us understanding our power, understanding our responsibility, because with great power comes great responsibility. So his name, Kal-El, means voice of God in Hebrew. He dies and is resurrected. He falls from the sky and rises in glory. So this is religious program wrapped in a red cape, right? So this is basically Superman is a Jesus archetype, right? And if you looked at the movie Batman versus Superman, which also released, like, I remember when the comic was first released and it was a big frenzy, like Superman died. It was a comic that like sold out like immensely. And I think it's still like a comic that's well valued if you have a copy of that comic book. I remember that happened in the 90s. It was a huge thing when Superman died. And then they replicated it in the Superman Batman movie where he died by Doomsday. So this is the religious programming, right? This is the religious motif, right? But it's also about you dying to this world, right? Being in the world, but not of the world. Climbing Jacob's ladder, so to speak, climbing your 33 vertebrae with Kundalini energy, and you rising into your God self, you rising into spiritual power, you becoming an Heru yourself, you becoming an Orseer, right? You becoming the falcon that is above and looking at the world, but is above the world because you are focused on your own goals, right? A falcon isn't worried about what's happening in Russia or Asia or South America, right? The falcon is focused on eating, right? The falcon is focused on their families. The falcon is focused on what it needs to hone in on and dive in so that it can take care of itself and continue to grow and for their families to continue to grow. So that's what we need to do as well, right? So it's the same ideology. The Jesus motif is nothing but the Kemetic Heru motif or archetype, where Heru or Ser died and was resurrected through his son Heru. And we know Superman is powered by the sun. So cinematic spell casting. Hollywood is America's altar and movies are its rituals. Blockbusters like Superman are not just entertainment. They're mass initiations, planting archetypes into the collective psyche. We're on a full moon in Capricorn. This ritual is amplified, charging the audience with a new God to believe in, okay? So in the movie, right, actually Superman invades, and I'm not going to spoil the movie, but in the movie, Superman invades a foreign country, basically. And he tells the people of a foreign country who happen to look like Muslims, right? Who just happen to look like Muslims and speak like Muslims. And we know America's at war with Iran, right? And with Israel's backing, right? But happen to look like Muslims. And he goes there and he basically is telling them, like, you can't invade this country, right? And that's really the crux of the situation. And through the movie, they skew it to make Superman obviously look like the hero for doing what he was doing and make that country look bad. So again, this is an amplified ritual of propaganda. Mind programming through myth. Superman is not just a movie character. He's a mythic template used to shape ideas of justice, power, and masculinity. Children imprint on him, okay? Nations align with him. Religions echo through him. The mind remembers symbols, not speeches. And Superman is the ultimate American symbol. So the first language is signs and symbols, ladies and gentlemen. The first language is signs and symbols. This is before any verbal language. And if you think about it, when you have dreams, right, you don't get dreams in text. You don't get dreams that are typed in. You don't get dreams where words are streaming through your subconscious. There's images. You might see a house. You might see an elephant. You might see a snake, right? So let's say let's do a quick example. Let's say you saw those three things. I could give you an interpretation of that dream right now. So you saw a house, right? And the elephant was walking by that house, right? So I would tell you there's some abundance coming your way. But you have the house, the elephant represents abundance. That will be Ganesha, right? So the elephant represents abundance, but the elephant also represents war as well, because the elephant is a tough animal, right, to take down, and they're very family oriented. So the house, I would say, make sure that you have a solid foundation, right? Make sure your foundation is solid so that abundance could come in, and make sure that, you know, you're taking care of all four corners, north, south, east, and west, right? Make sure you have things in order, right? Make sure you have some structure in order. That will be your house. And then let's say the snake was and then you saw the snake, right, coming into the house. So I would say the snake is that Kundalini energy, right? That snake is that fiery energy. That snake is telling you that you got to get healthy, right? You might have to do some breathing exercises. You might have to do some yoga. You might have to take your ass to the gym. So if you want to get this abundance, right? And if you want to get this structure, you're going to need energy to do it, right? So the first language, even in your subconscious, is signs and symbols. Drop a 7 in the chat if that makes sense, if I'm making sense, all right? And that's how you interpret your dreams. You could look at books and things like that to get interpretations, but study, as Black Dot always says, you know what I'm saying? Study the known, right? To discover the unknown, right? As Phil Valentine says, its form denotes its function. So when you look at that, these are easy ways to look at your dreams and look at signs and symbols and break them down so that you understand what you're looking at. All right. So again, if that makes sense, drop a 7 in the chat. Let me know I'm not here by myself and that, you know, you're learning something, right? So the mind remembers symbols and speeches, and Superman is the ultimate American symbol. Let's continue. So Superman is America. Red cape, blue suit, yellow sun. Superman is not global. He is a nationalistic myth designed to protect empire and promote the illusion of moral superiority. He is a weapon of belief aimed at the masses, aimed at the mind of the masses, dressed in righteousness, but forged in propaganda, all right, which we talked about earlier. So why now? America's unraveling, economic pressure, foreign wars, family breakdown, civil unrest. So they bring back Superman, a cosmic cop, a savior, a symbol of strength and order. The full moon in Capricorn is no accident. It's Saturn's hour. The empire needs new belief, right? The empire needs, and Superman is the spell they use to hold it together. This is myth deployed as medicine, right? Again, Superman is a savior in this movie. He invades a foreign country, but Superman is also seen as an immigrant in this movie, right? They use him as an immigrant archetype. He's an immigrant from outer space, and he's just trying to do his best, right? And there's also a scene, which is in the previews, where he is in a prison, right? And the prison looks like a Guantanamo Bay, all right? It's the same mythos. So they kind of using him to align with this whole immigration. It's a play on emotions, right? To make you think, oh, he represents immigrants. And, you know, they having this whole ICE thing. It's a way to play on your emotions to make you think that, oh, this guy's just an immigrant that's being arrested, right? Against his will, right? Being detained against his will for doing the right thing, right? But that's not the case, as we know, in the American empire. So this is basically all propaganda, right? Under Saturn, which represents control, all right? That's the main thing. And when we get into the Lex Luthor part, I'll talk a little bit more. Again, I'm not going to spoil the movie. I just want to talk about some of the details. So when you watch it, you'll see it for yourself. Symbols program reality. You don't just watch Superman, you absorb him. Symbols are seeds planted in the subconscious and watered by repetition, emotion, and awe, right? Look at Superman flying in the air, right? Look at how much strength he has, right? Look at how good he is, right? The S on his chest, it doesn't stand for Superman in this case. It stands for spell. And once it's rooted in your mind, it shapes how you see power, protection, and God. And Superman's logo is imprinted right on the heart, right? But it is an upside down pyramid if you really look at it, right? But his logo is imprinted on the heart, and it is a S. So that S is for spell, but that S is also for snake, right? And we're not talking about the Kundalini. We're talking about an inversion of the Kundalini energy, which is to root you into believing in the myth of America's goodness, right? You don't need to hate Superman. You just need to see him clearly. He's not your enemy. He's an idea programmed to a dying empire. The real power is yours to decode, to believe in something beyond the cape. All right. So science even says Superman should be black. This is not opinion. This is not politics. This is pure solar logic. What happens when you build a god whose power comes from the sun? Superman gets his power from the sun. The closer he is to the sun, the stronger he becomes. Solar radiation fuels his strength, speed, and healing. His cells act like solar panels, soaking in light, right? Soaking in light, converting it into godlike power. So when we talk about getting energy from the sun, right? Solar flares, coronal mass injections. We're in solar cycle 25 right now. We're talking about, again, melanin, U melanin in particular, not just regular melanin, right? EU melanin. The letters for the element gold is AU. So E and A, right? They're vowels, so they're interchangeable. So it's really your gold, right? It's your liquid gold that is in your body, your melanin. It's your cellular gold, right? Melanin is actually in the cell and in the mitochondrial DNA. So that's the powerhouse that you have within yourself and absorbs light. And we see this, right? Let's look at, like you look at sports, right? The strength, the speed, right? Of melanated people in sports. We take over everything that we are in, right? This is what, even like golf, they had it on lock, right? Tiger came in, smashed it up. Tennis, Serena and them came in, mashed it up. Coco Golf now, right? So healing, right? You could look at melanated people who take care of themselves, right? Who don't look their age, who look younger than their age, right? So this ability to soak in light and convert it into energy, we know people of other cultures do not have that ability. This is why I say to be born in a melanated body in this lifetime is a gift. Now, again, I want to be clear. When you are going through the process of reincarnation, right? Meaning that you're going through different lives and different lifetimes. So you live, you die, you live, you die. There's a good movie on that by what's his name? Top Gun. What's his name? Not, is it Johnny Depp? Not Johnny Depp. What's the guy from Mission Impossible? Somebody put it in the chat his name. There's a good movie about where he's basically in this movie, he keeps going back and referring. He keeps going back and rewinding. He goes through this story, but he dies, he comes back, he goes through the same story, he dies and comes back, and he has to figure out how to master. Tom Cruise, thank you. He has to figure out, thank you, Alaskan Avatar. He has to figure out, let me see what that movie is, but he has to figure out how to master this particular lifestyle, so to speak. It's a very good movie. And if you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest you understand it. It'll help you edge it tomorrow. Edge it tomorrow. It'll help you understand well, some people call it reincarceration, right? But I don't see Earth as a prison realm. But it does help you understand the particular, let's see, let me share this. So yeah, this is a small screen, but edge it tomorrow, right? It helps you understand this particular live, die, repeat. And that's what, reincarnation is, right? You live, you die, you repeat. You live, you die, repeat until you reach a certain level of self-mastery where you master positivity and negativity, where you master the dark side and the light side of the force, so to speak, right? Which you are even keel. You master the left side of your brain, which is the masculine, the logical, the reasoning, right? The assertiveness, and you master the right side of your brain, which is the feminine, right? The imaginative, the internal, right? The holistic, right? And the the soul part of you, right? The masculine is more of your spirit, right? The external spirit, and the feminine is the soul, right? So these are both aspects of ourselves, and this is mastering both sides of the force, so to speak. Oh, it didn't even show up. Oh, hold on. Give me 1 second. But edge it tomorrow. Just look that up. You'll be able to find it. So when you have to realize that you've come here in different bodies. Like I've done readings for people, and you can see white people in their past, right? In their past lives that come through during the reading. You'll see Hispanic people from their past lives come through in their reading. Greek people, right? People from all sorts of different cultures. Asian people come through in the reading. A lot of times it's because they've been nudging you through your subconscious, trying to get you to tap in, get you to light a candle, get you to connect with them, right? But because you don't, right, when you do a reading with someone like me who does have certain psychic abilities, they'll come through the reading and channel through me to give you a message. And usually, matter of fact, 100% of the time, you'll recognize this person because they came in your dreams. You know, you've seen certain things that you've looked at that you may have like let's say an Asian person comes through. You may have affinity for, you know, Chinese or Japanese calligraphy, right? You may like their style of writing. You may like their style of clothing, and you don't know why. Well, that's from a past life. The people who are PETA people, right? PETA, who love animals, right? Will kill for animals, but won't defend a person, a black person. But that's another story for another day. But they'll kill for an animal, right? They'll go crazy for a monkey that's or a leopard that's endangered, but they'll walk by a human that's endangered in the same way and won't give two shits. These are people that were animals their past lives. They were once those animals in the past life, and they've come here to be a human this life, right? That was just their trajectory. So don't get caught up in the vessel, right? Don't get caught up in being pro-black, pro-white, pro-Hispanic, pro-nothing. Be pro-God. Be pro-truth. Be pro-light. Be pro-power, right? Be pro-developing psychic abilities, clairs, your clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, etc. Be pro that. Don't be pro this vessel. This is just a vessel. A powerful vessel it is. You got the Lamborghini. If you come in this life and you come in this vessel, you got the Lamborghini of vessels, right? You got the Bugatti of vessels. But the Bugatti of vessels, it doesn't matter. As I always say, it doesn't matter if you got a Bugatti if all you do is circle around the projects in the hood with it all day, right? You got to take that on the highway, right? You got to really maximize what that vessel could do. And that's our goal here on Earth, is to maximize this vessel. So let's continue. So melanin absorbs more solar energy. Melanin is a natural photonic absorber. Photons are just units of light. It drinks in light, especially ultraviolet radiation. The more melanin you have, the more efficiently your body absorbs solar energy. So Superman is solar powered. A dark-skinned body makes more sense biologically, right? So it makes more sense for Superman to be melanated. There's a book. There's a book on Superman. I'm getting ready to move, so I don't want to look through the bookshelf. But there's a good book on Superman. If you know, this is something Brother Panic and Bobby Hemmett talked about. If you know the book, you could drop it in the chat for the people. But it talks about this as well, how Superman had to be black, right? There's no way Caucasian could absorb light or sunlight because his skin would burn, right? Skin would burn. You get sunburn, right? You get all type of diseases and all type of, you know, rashes and things like that. So there's no way, right? But again, it's part of the trick knowledge, so to speak. So sun gods were always black. They're supposed to be, hold on. Maybe I didn't put it in. But they're supposed to, well, maybe it's the next, hold on, let me see. So, okay, there it is. So sun gods were always black. So we got Ra, which is where I derive my name from, the ultraviolet, not the sun. The sun is I-10. People call Ra the sun. Ra is not the sun. Ra is the rays, R-A. Ra is the rays of the sun. So the sun's rays specifically, right? The light emanated from the sun. In Kemet, it was called I-10. The sun itself was called I-10, but the rays from the sun is Ra. It's the ultraviolet energy. So Shango in the Yoruba culture, Nzambi, Mapungu in the Congo, and Oludumare in Orisha cosmology. So these are gods of light and thunder, rooted in melanin, rhythm, and fire. All right. So when we say Superman should be black, we're not reinventing anything. All right. And as you see here, even Forbes said it. All right. This is a Forbes article from 2016. Forbes published the article breaking it all down. If Superman absorbs radiation to fuel his powers, then melanin would be the most efficient biological conduit. The more melanin, the better solar absorption. See, they have to tell you the truth about who you are, because that's how the spell works, right? And it's up to you, the viewer, to understand and decode the spell. And that actually takes power away from the spell. It takes power away from the ritual when you understand what it is. Because now you see it, you recognize it, and you can make a conscious, logical decision, right? You can engage your prefrontal cortex, which makes logical decisions based on what the subconscious programs it, right? So, and this article you could pull up, right? It's this is exact title, right? This is not what ChatGPT says. I already knew this. I read this in 2016. I actually shared it on my Facebook page back in the day, so I remembered it, right? I just used ChatGPT to pull up to create an image for me. But science. So again, to reaffirm, science says Superman should be black. Melanin absorbs more solar energy. Superman is powered by the sun. It's just solar logic, okay? So if he landed in Africa instead, sip some water real quick. Hold on, y'all. All right. If he landed in Africa instead, imagine if Superman's pod crashed or landed in the Congo, which is the home of magic. Shout out to Brother Oba. He has a great lecture on magic started in the Congo. On, I believe it's Omadia Productions. So check out Brother Oba. He's been featured on Urban X channel a lot. Or Nubia, or which is now modern day Sudan, or the highlands of Ethiopia. Raised in ancestral rhythm, trained in spiritual science, speaking to the sun like it was his brother. Would he be the same man, or would he already be a god? All right. So imagine Superman crash landed in Africa, right? Something to think about. What would that origin story be like? So blackness isn't a costume. You can't just paint it black, Superman black, and call it representation. If you ignore the science, the culture, the symbolism, you're not creating a black Superman. You're cosplaying whiteness in black skin. True black divinity is rooted in energy, ancestry, and frequency. Okay. Alaskan Avatar says certainly there wouldn't be no Lois Lane. That's a fact, right? But Lois Lane is a Orset archetype, right? Lois Lane is the Orset archetype, the mother aspect of the mythos. You have to have feminine energy. So, but it definitely wouldn't be, a Caucasian. Black Superman isn't diversity. The sun fuels melanin, melanin fuels purpose, power reveals purpose. So this is deeper than comics. It's ancestral and it's spiritual. All right, let's continue. So when black super children see themselves as Superman, it rewrites the script. They no longer wait to be saved. They remember that they already are the power. Black Superman isn't fiction. It's revelation. It's reclamation. It's a return to the source. Why black superheroes matter. Representation is not entertainment. It's remembrance. When we see ourselves as gods, warriors, saviors, and stars, we reclaim what colonization tried to erase. A black Superman is not fantasy. It's memory. Memory of solar kings, cosmic architects, and melanin-coded messengers sent through time. This is spiritual psychology. This is ancestral technology. And this is a quote from Bobby Hemmett. He says, Bobby said, when the image changes, the frequency shifts. So when you go there with your children, right, or watch this movie with your sons or your daughters, right, reclaim this image, right? Reclaim that this is really a hijacking, right, of our science, a hijacking of our spiritual technology, right? Basically, it's like a Amos and Andy, so to speak, right? It's a white face, or you know what I'm saying? The only thing is a white face of a black character instead of a black character played by white people, right? So, but actually it is. It's black characters played by white people. That's what Superman is, right? Superman is a black character played by a Caucasian person. So we want to tell our children what it is. We want to give them toys, books, ephemera, posters, things that reaffirm them. There's nothing, again, we're not, anti-Superman, so to speak, but we are anti-colonial ideology, right? We are anti the bullshit. So we want to reaffirm who we are in our culture, especially in these days and times, because the ancestors, the veil is very thin right now, ladies and gentlemen. The ancestors are here at play. You know, all these things that are happening, these floods all over the place. You know, there's floods in New Mexico. There was flooding in Texas. There was a flash flood in Chicago. There's floods in North Carolina. There's all these eruptions of volcanoes on the eastern side of things, right? We live in the west, but out east, all these volcanoes are eruption, right? You know, and there's other things happening which we'll get into. But now is the time that we have to reclaim our ancestry and reclaim our power. Again, this is not hate for anyone, right? This is not, you know, I'm not against the European gods and goddesses or anything like that, but we got our own. So why not embrace our own deities? Why not embrace our own gods and goddesses? You know, why do we have to go to those, you know what I'm saying, that are used by our colonizers and those that are used like the Baphomet? You know, shout out to Bobby and Panic. Again, I'm not against them or their ideology or their teachings, but we have our own version of that, which is Kum or Amun, right? Which is where Baphomet even came from, right? So there's people that don't look like us, that don't want to serve our best interests, that don't, you know, care about us, that use these particular deities against us. So you're working with those deities the same way. You know, you're kind of powering them up. At the same time, you think you're powering yourself up. So keep that in mind. The original Hebrews were black. All right. And in Lamentations 4:8, it says they are black unto the ground. And this is something Kyrie Irving, we know, got in trouble for when that whole thing was happening in 2021, 2022. Kanye Hester came out and talked about the original Hebrews were black, right? And you saw what happened. You saw the hammer that, you know, the small hat community came down with to try to silence them, right? And even the same thing happened to Nick Cannon, right? Whenever you touch on this, it's a very serious, sensitive subject because it's the truth. And I was in a jewelry store with a bunch of Jewish guys the other day, right, fixing one of my necklaces, and they know it. They know this. They know this science. Like I was telling them, they was like, "Yeah, we know." It was like, "Yeah, we know." You know what I'm saying? They know what's up. Don't think these people are ignorant to what they're doing. They know exactly what's up. They know exactly what they're doing. But if you want to be a goyim, right? If you're going to be a person that they use to make money from, yeah, they're going to use you to make money from, right? But even then, when I go into the store, I go into that store like a magician, right? I go in there to charm them, right? I'll get discounts for my shit. I remember one time I walked in, they repaired one of my necklaces, and I came out and I ain't even paying. And I still go back to the store. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know I ain't paying. So, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're a magician for real, and you're walking magic, right? When you're electromagnetic field and you understand the science and you go out, charge up with the sun, start thinking positively about what you want to manifest in the world. Stop worrying about the secret society. Stop worrying about what the government's doing. Stop worrying about these wars and rumors of wars. Stop worrying about, you know, what other people's businesses and celebrities' business, and you really focus on you and your personal spiritual development and your personal overall holistic development. This means mind and body, not just reading a bunch of books, not just having a bunch of knowledge to impress your friends, not just, you know, being able to articulate and recite things well. And when you really are focused on who you are and what your powers are and how you could develop yourself, right? And again, it starts with mind and body. You got to be healthy as well. You got to be healthy. I don't care what any of the spiritual teacher tells you. You got a whole bunch of shit and gunk in your body, right? You're not going to be able to really, if you can't run a mile, if this world crashes right now, you can't run, right? What? And I'm really more so talking to men with this, right? More so than women. If you can't run, how are you going to be able to take care of your family and run with your kids? If you can't carry a heavy knapsack, right? Without being out of breath, how are you going to be really say you're going to be able to take care of your family? So you want to optimize your health as well, right? Especially men, right? So the book references are From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Windsor, The Value of Dry Bones by Elijah Muhammad, and Hebrews fled from Roman persecution into Africa. All right, that's a true story, right? Not Europe, because they were already African in origin and hue. So Kal-El means voice of God, which we touched on earlier. Superman's birth name, Kal-El, comes from ancient Semitic roots. El was a sacred name for the Most High in early Hebrew and Afro-Asiatic languages. But this isn't about language. It's about identity. The earliest people called on El were not European. They were melanated desert tribes, spiritually advanced, nomadic, meaning they moved around a lot, and deeply cosmically aligned. Kal-El isn't just science fiction. He is a mythic echo of something real, a divine being sent to Earth, misunderstood, exiled, and empowered. And again, you can read these two books, From Babylon to Timbuktu and The Valley of Dry Bones, right? In fact, I would recommend anyone that is coming into African spiritual sciences, even if you're coming through ATRs, African traditional religions like Ifa, Lukami, Voodoo, Santeria, things like that, right? If you're part of those traditions, you really want to read these books. You want to know your history, right? So that you understand the mystery. Because a lot of times people come into this and they come straight into European deities, right? They come straight into the quote unquote European occult. And even in that, you think the white man's ice is colder. Even in that, even in your mysticism, you think the white man's ice is colder. And I promise you it's not. Kryptonite and melanin. Kryptonite weakens Superman, but why? Because its true power comes from the sun. Melanin absorbs light, stores frequency, and transmutes energy. It's not just pigment, it's cosmic technology. Kryptonite, colonization, radiation, trauma, suppression, right? It symbolizes what happens when black divine power is disconnected from the source. Superman is in fiction. He's an encrypted symbol of you, all right? So kryptonite are things, again, trick knowledge, right? Making you think, like, for instance, and this may piss people off. I don't give a damn, though. FBA is kryptonite. FBA ADOS is kryptonite, right? These are things that make you think that your physical vessel, this shell, this body, is who you truly are. ADOS, descendant of slave. You're a descendant of slaves? Really? A descendant of slaves. Like, that's what you want to define yourself as. Not a prisoner of war, which is what quote unquote slaves were, and all slaves are prisoners of war, right? Not a prisoner of war, but a descendant of a slave. Like, do you know how disempowering that is? A foundational Black American. First of all, you're tying yourself to a color and saying that your color is your foundation, right? And your foundation is that you're Black here. I would rather you say you're from a tribe, the Yamasee, the whatever, right? Gullah Geechee, Blackfoot, right? Say identify yourself as a tribe. I would prefer that, because at least there's a spiritual lineage tied to that. There's morals, there's cultural ethics, right? There's an ethos, right? There's family ethics tied to those tribes, right? You can't just do what you want. There's a Saturnian structure, which we all need, right? There's a discipline that we all need, right? I'd rather you say that. I'd rather you say you're from some sort of ATR than for you to say you're just a foundational Black American. What is that? Okay, we built this country. All right. If you tell anybody with common sense that, right, we built this country, then they're going to ask you, where's the factories then? They're going to ask you, where's the wholesalers then? They're going to ask you, where's the banks, right? They're going to ask you, where's the hospitals? They're going to ask you, where's the bridges? They're going to ask you, where's your land? They're going to ask you, where's your White House or your Black House? They're going to ask you these things because you said you built it. There's this big kryptonite. I'll give you some more kryptonite. These recent things where they were talking about this Carnival cruise line, right? This controversy about the Carnival cruise line. Also, this controversy about the Essence Fest, right? Well, you can't complain about something that you don't own. I'll say it again. Can't complain about something that you don't own. If you're working a job, right, and you don't like the job, you have the option to quit and become an entrepreneur. If you don't like working for people, you have the option to become an entrepreneur. But to sit on the job and complain all day, or you have the option to go get another job, right? At another place, if that's what you so choose to do. But to sit there and complain is weak, right? Pity is for the weak. Crying and whining is for the weak. Complaining is for the weak. That's for a descendant of slaves. That's for a descendant of a slave. That's not for a sovereign being. I'm watching these videos about people talking about this Essence Fest and how Africans take it over. Not one video, I've watched at least 3. Not one video have I seen where somebody said, well, we need to all come together and buy Essence Fest back from the Africans. Because obviously the Africans came together to buy it from Black people who had it. So just buy it back. Come together and buy it back. If you don't like the Carnival Cruise Line and you feel like Carnival Cruise Line is discriminating against so-called Black people, then melanated people should buy their own cruise line. These boats are for sale. These ships are for sale. If I'm lying, let me know in the comments. Are they not? These things are not for sale? They're for sale. You could buy them. They say melanated people in America are the biggest consumers in America. Buy the most consumer goods. We buy up all the designer clothes. We buy up all the designer sneakers, right? We're buying up all these accoutrements, all these things to make our flesh, our body look good, all these things to impress other people. But when it comes to coming together, what do you hear people say? Oh, you can't trust Black people. Oh, Black people don't trust each other. Black people don't work together. That's kryptonite. That's kryptonite. You're being disconnected from your power. You're being told that you are something that you're not. You're a God body. You're a God body. You come here to win. You're here to win. You're the sperm. You know when the sperm hits the egg? When the sperm hits the egg, do you know that the sperm that hits the egg, there are like 12 other sperm that surround the egg to make sure no other sperm could get in? Do you know how powerful you are? That you're here, manifested in flesh, and that you're still alive? You survived the pandemic? Don't let anybody tell you that you're less than what you are. All right? Don't let nobody lull you into complacency. If you don't like something, come together. Don't do it on the internet. Come together under the guise, right? Beyond, as they say, right? Come together in the shadows, so to speak, and do what you need to do. But all that whining and complaining, nah, that's something only girls should be doing. And not even, right? Because a lot of women will come together, and I say girls, not women. A lot of women will come together and make shit happen, right? So again, don't let anybody label you beyond your divinity, all right? Don't let anybody disconnect you from your source. You are the Superman. You are the Ubermensch that the European talks about, right? You are the Adam Cadman that the European talks about. That's you. Superman versus the government. So Superman, he battles with the U.S. government, his battles with the U.S. government symbolize a deeper truth. Divine beings are always targeted by empire, surveillance, alienation, forced assimilation. From Tuskegee to COINTELPRO, they have always tried to control celestial energy. If Superman landed in America today, he'd be feared, watched, targeted. His powers wouldn't be celebrated. They'd be surveilled. Let's be real. A flying Black man with glowing eyes. They'd call him a threat, not a hero. And we see that because we've had flying Black men with glowing eyes that maybe didn't levitate, right, and fly in the sky, but we've had men like Malcolm X who definitely came through with superpowers and glowing eyes. We've had men like Khalid Muhammad who definitely came through like supermen with glowing eyes. We've had men like Bob Marley who definitely came through like supermen with glowing eyes. We've had men like Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, right? The list goes on, right? And they label these men as threats. They label these men as disturbances to the system. And then they try to weaken them, right? First, they destroy their character in some way, shape, or form, which we see nowadays, regardless of, and this may be a little controversial, but I'm going to say it, regardless of what you feel about Bill Cosby, If you look at Bill Cosby's early career, right, Bill Cosby was very much for melanated people. He was very much for telling the truth, right, in a time when people didn't tell the truth. Fat Albert and the Cosby Show in a different world, a different world increased, right, increased melanated people going to HBCU colleges. That's to show a different world, right? The Cosby Show made melanated people want to be doctors, right? Made them want to be lawyers, right? Made them want to have families, right? Cosby Show, for people who don't know, was a show that people came home to watch. They came home to watch the Cosby Show. Like they would stop, like you would stop things because there was no like, unless you had a VHS, which, you know what I'm saying, everybody didn't have, but unless you recorded it, right, you'd have to come home at that time to watch the Cosby Show. Now, regardless of the other things that he's done, we're not gonna, or he was alleged to do, right, there is a systematic way that they try to destroy melanated people with power, or melanated people that produce positive images of us, okay? And even in this movie, Lex Luthor, the villain in the movie, right, he has a whole team of people, strictly to destroy Superman, right? And he does it like a game of chess. Like he says moves like A1, B23 when he's using Ultraman, which is in the preview, so I'm not spoiling the movie, right? When he's fighting, he's using these chess moves because it is a game of chess. So it is a game of strategy that you have to play. You can't put all your plans on the internet, especially nowadays. You can't put every move you're making on the internet. You can't put every idea that you have moving forward on the internet because they could counter your moves, which is what they was doing. Ultraman was doing with Superman in the movie. So we're coming into a new age, right? So pay attention to what you are getting into, right? And, you know, start to move and do things offline, right? One day that's going to be the case anyway. Blackness is cosmic, not criminal. It is skin, it is frequency, cosmic law, creation itself. The media equates blackness with danger. This is ritual slander of the divine. The cape, the cross, and the crown. The red cape symbolizes the bloodline. The glyph is the serpent or solar sigil. His story arc, death and rebirth, mirrors Yeheru and Yeshua. And what if you are the real Superman? All right. And this is what we've been talking about all this time. So you are Kal-El. You are the voice of God. Abracadabra means what I speak, I create, right? So you are Kal-El, which means the voice of God. You have the power of Heka, your throat chakra, in order to make things happen. But you got to have vitality attached to that throat chakra. If you have a weak body and you're speaking affirmations and, you know, you're speaking about things that you want to manifest, but there's no real energy, you don't really feel it, it's not really written in your heart, right? It's not really pumping in your veins, then it has weak resonance. It has weak magnetic fortitude. So you were sent here. You're sent here, right? You carry memory, mission, and magic. Live out your origin story. Embrace truth, discipline, purpose, and inner power. So Luthor, what's Lex Luthor represent? Luthor represents the ego of empire, intellect with no soul, image with no spirit, power with no purpose. He mirrors how the elite hijack divine archetypes, then sell them back to the masses through media, tech, and warfare. He's the high priest of false light, the builder of gods you were never meant to become. So in the movie, like I said, he builds a clone of Superman called Ultraman, right? And if you look at the Jordan Peele movie Us, it also talks about cloning, right? And having clones of the ground of people. And we see even with AI, right? Now, like if we're seeing AI right now, that means AI's already been, the government's had AI probably since 2000, maybe 2010. They've already had this type of technology. And I'm sure they've used it on the masses. And what my intuition tells me is this whole Queen Elizabeth thing. If you remember, there was Jason Lee of Hollywood Unlocked had said that he had strong confirmation that Queen Elizabeth died that February. And then, right, it blew up, right? And then they silenced him. And then they had a Zoom call with Queen Elizabeth. Now, this is before this whole AI thing was what it is now, If you look on social media, you see that it's very hard to distinguish between AI and real people. And it's only going to get much more worse by 2030. They have something called the dead internet theory, where one day we'll log on these things and it'll just be fake people. So we'll be forced to get back to connecting with each other. But they will hijack, like there's AIs right now that are hoodoo AIs. There's AI right now that is New Age theory AIs. There's AI right now that is pro-Black AI. There's AI right now that is FBA AI, ADOS AI. There's AI right now that is Christian. There's AI right now that is Muslim. There's AI right now that is Catholic. Anything gay, lesbian, trans. There's AI for everybody. If you're a freak, you like titties, you like ass, there's an AI for you, right? There's AI chatbots. In fact, I posted something on my Facebook page today, a little joke, right? And I didn't expect kind of to get the comments that I got, which is, but they were funny, which is cool. But I said, what did I say? I said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you think that AI chatbot loves you, right? I said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but that AI chatbot doesn't really love you, right? And people were commenting like, you know, like defending the chatbot, like defending the love of the chatbot. And it was framed, you know, comedically, but it was just, you know, I was surprised that a lot of people commented on that instead of just liking it. You know what I'm saying? So it just shows the emotional impact that people are having with these chatbots. Another thing in the movie, Superman had an AI robot in there. And in the movie, it starts with the number 4. So the number 4 is the number, which we're under the Cancer sun, right? Even though it's a new moon in Capricorn or full moon in Capricorn, we're under a Cancer sun right now in astrology. So the number of Cancer, which I did in my last new moon video in Cancer, the number of Cancer is number 4. So 4 represents root, which represents home, right? It represents family, right? Cancer represents those ideals, right? Mother and things like that. Women, especially the divine feminine. So the fact, and also in this movie, there is just to show you more Cancer archetypes and more of the ritual, there is a band called the Mighty Crab Joys, Cancer, crab, right? The Mighty Crab Joys. So the Cancer element is all in this movie, and that is Superman's favorite. It's a made up band. It's not a real band, but it's something that James Gunn made up for the movie called the Mighty Crab Joys. So that's the Cancer archetype in place. So again, hijacking divine archetypes, right? And selling them back to the masses through media, tech, and warfare. So this is what Lex Luthor represents. He represents a techno god, right? And if you look, you know, you'll see that in the movie where he has a whole bunch of monkeys basically being bots, right? Spreading spam on Superman, which is what happens now. Like a lot of times, if you look in your comments section, you might have like a whole bunch of positive comments and there's one wild, random negative comment. 9 times out of 10, you look at that, you go to look at the page of who, which most people aren't going to do. But if you go look at the page of the person that's made that comment, they're following like 3,000 people and they got 0 posts or 1, 2, or 3 posts. It's an AI. It's an AI designed to get you to engage in a negative manner, right? It's an AI. So be careful out here, all right? Be careful. Word. That is a fact. Salute to everybody in the building. All right. Smash that like button if you are here. I do appreciate that. All right. And hit the subscribe button if you like this content because there's more to come. This is media sorcery at its peak. So Superman, solar god frequency, Ultraman, right? Which is, if you looked at the previews, you've seen Ultraman fighting Superman in the stadiums and things like that. He's the character in all black, right? Obviously. And there is a scene where I won't get into that yet. That might be a little bit of spoiler. But Mr. Terrific, the black character, right, with the T-spears, he is a genius, which they don't really highlight enough in the movie, but he is a genius and in the DC Marvel universe. And he is needed, right, specifically to go into, let's say, a black hole, right, for sake of argument, which is not what happens in the movie, but let's just say a black hole. He's the one, and he comes with he brings feminine energy with him to enter that black hole because the black hole represents the divine feminine as well, right? It is a portal, a stargate. So if you're a woman with a vagina, you essentially have a stargate. You're able to bring life to this world. You're able to birth babies. So you don't need to look for a Stargate someplace in the Middle East or what movies tell you. If you are a woman, you have a Stargate within you. All right. So you're very, very valuable here on the planet. So Lex is an alchemist of control. So Luther doesn't want to destroy the divinity. He wants to own its image, command its voice, and program its followers. So also another aspect, Saturnian aspect in this movie when you watch it, and again, I'm not spoiling it, I'm just talking. When Lex Luthor has this point where he drops things, right? And he's constantly dropping things in a particular scene. And people are just scooping it up, scooping it up, scooping it up. Also, throughout the movie, he's wearing black, which is a Saturn archetype. Again, new moon in Capricorn, right? And Saturn is all about control. So Lex is demonstrating control, right? And when you're under a Saturnian thing, it's about rigid control, rigid discipline. Like the government is a Saturnian thing, right? The military is Saturnian, right? Initiation is also Saturnian, right? Going through initiation. You can't just do what you want when you're going through initiation, right? You got to pass those rites. Like in the movie 300, right? When the Spartans, he had to, which is taken from an African spiritual initiation, by the way. There's no real record if you study Sparta, where they actually hunted lions and brought back the lion head barehanded. That doesn't exist. That's all ritual myth that they put in that movie. But that's something that actual tribes or African or indigenous tribes actually did, right? Which brought you into manhood. But there's no skirt in that, right? You either died or you didn't die. Black Dot in his book, Gotta Laugh and Keep From Crying, he talks about, there's a scene in the book where he talks about they had an initiation where they would put you on the edge of a building and put you in a garbage can, put you on the edge of a building, on the top of a building, and spin you around the garbage can. And if you survived that spin and you landed on the right side where you were able to land on the top of the building, you were in the group. But if you didn't, your ass was grass, right? You died, right? That's Saturn. Saturn don't give a fuck, all right? Saturn is about rules, law. Saturn is gravity. Now, I don't care how spiritual you are. I don't care how much your chakras are open, right? Jump off a building, gravity's going to crash your ass to earth and you're going to die, right? Go into the ocean and you can't swim. I don't care how much knowledge you have. Your ass is going to drown. That's Saturn, all right? So a lot of that is at play in this movie. Let's continue. So Krypto the dog, all right? As you see, I got a Bitcoin right next to him, okay? Krypto, Capricorn, and the loyalty ritual. So Krypto isn't just a cartoon dog. He's a symbol of obedience, emotional programming, and energetic currency. And now his name echoes something deeper. Krypto, loyalty, contracts, control, and as Straight Panther is saying, the dog days of summer, which we are in, okay? Which was set off by the new moon in Cancer, all right? Cancer season always sets off the dog days of summer, which aligns with Sirius rising, all right? So, yep, and Straight Panther's on it again, the Sirius star. Yeah, he knows where I'm going. This is an educated black man here, right? Shout out to Straight Panther, all right? So what we're talking about, right, this particular loyalty or this contracts or this control, when you are dealing with crypto, you are dealing with smart contracts, right? And cryptocurrency is going to come into the fray. So if you watch this movie, which this is going to be a popular movie, there's Superman, right? My theater was packed. I remember going to see this other movie, 40 Acres, which everyone should see, all right? It's something in limited viewing, but everyone should go see this movie, 40 Acres. It's number 4, again, is a Cancerian number, right? 0 would not count in numerology, but it's about putting that 4 into the cipher, so to speak, if you're looking at God body math, right? Or supreme mathematics, right? So putting culture and freedom into the cipher. But this would come with a woman, right? A woman basically deals with domestic aspects of the household. So, but anyway, I don't want to go deep into that movie in this particular video. But this particular thing is about cryptocurrency. So crypto being here during the dog days of summer, representing the Sirius energy. The ritual is about getting people prepared for cryptocurrency. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you, and let me go into the big screen for this. If you can, have some cash on hand. Have at least, if you can afford it, I'm going to say at minimum, I'm going to be humble with it, at minimum $100, right? At minimum $100 cash that you don't touch, that you just have on hand. Not in the bank, not in savings, not in investments, the minimum. At maximum, as much as you can, right? As much as you can. Just cash, stash someplace in the house that you could get to, right? That you could get to in case everything crashes and you can't get to the bank. My bank, right? I ain't gonna tell y'all my bank's name, but maybe some of y'all banks is doing this as well. My bank recently shut down, so I can't go on, like, for these next 3 days, I can't go on my online account and check it because they're switching the bank up. They're switching the online banking up, which I was surprised. I'm like, you know, I've been around this planet for a long time. I'm like, why is the banking? Like, why can't I access my banking for my online banking for 3 days? Now I can go to the ATM, I can still make purchases and things like that, right? But I can't use my online banking to check my balance, right? And I'm just like, that's kind of weird, you know? So again, signs and symbols, you know, my antenna goes up when things like this happens. So get you some cash, because if they shut down the banks, if there's something, which I think something catastrophic will happen, I also think they're going to incentivize people to trade in their cash for crypto by giving them more crypto and more value to trade in your cash, right? Or something catastrophic will happen and you're going to be in a position to where, oh, Straight Panther said they switched up. Okay, so it's not just me then. I thought it was me. The bank that I used did that recently as well, a credit union, right? Okay, they switched up my bank too. Okay, so you guys see, this is so I'm not making this up, right? This is not just me. This is what they're doing. So they're switching these things up to implement, in my personal perspective and my personal projection and prophecy, right, that they're going to implement crypto sometime this year. It's going to pop up sometime this year. And it's going to be small, I believe, at first, or it's going to be a catastrophic event that forces people to use cryptocurrency. Your children are already using it. If you play games like NBA 2K, your kids play Roblox, you're already paying for them to use real money for fake money, for coins, right? Coins, tokens, things like that, right? I know if you play 2K personally and you want to upgrade and you want to really do well in 2K, not only do you got to pay the $79 or $69 for the game, but you also got to pay for, you know, add-ons to the game. So that's the way they keep bringing you in and keep you buying and buying, right? You know, it's about bleeding you. It's vampirism at its finest. So this is part of the ritual, and this dog is all over this movie, all heavy in this movie from beginning to end, right? It starts off with crypto and it ends with crypto, for real. So again, when you hear that mantra over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? And crypto is loyal to Superman, loyal to Empire, right? So keep that in mind when you watch it. So crypto, Capricorn, and the loyalty ritual continue. This isn't just a character. This is an energetic ritual normalizing controller's care, obedience, and value. But Capricorn holds a deeper truth. The mountain goat climbs alone. The God self needs no leash. Your devotion must serve your divinity, not a master, not a system or a code. All right. I go look at my video, Science of Systems, where I was building with the God, I see Allah, right, from Nation of Gods and Earth. And we were talking about the science of systems, which I started with, and I kind of ran into him. Again, it was unexpected, and we had a great building session. So check that video out on my channel. But, you know, this is about, like, you're not supposed to be a Christian forever, right? You're not supposed to be a Christian forever. That's supposed to be a step. You're not supposed to be a God body forever. That's supposed to be a step. You're not supposed to be just an occultist forever. That's supposed to be a step. You're not supposed to be whatever you are, whatever religion you follow. Now, people may, and even if it's African traditional religion, Ifa or whatever, right? You should take these principles, integrate these principles, and create your own system. That is sovereignty. If you're a Christian, you're supposed to become Christ and create your own system, because guess what? You are a unique being. There's no one like you on the planet. You have a unique blueprint. You have a unique fingerprint. right? You're supposed to grow beyond these things and create your own system. This is why me personally, Rob Blackstorm, I don't follow nobody. You know what I'm saying? I listen to wisdom. If it works, I eat off the tree of life. I eat off the tree of life. Are there things I get from the Bible? Yeah. Are there things I get from Islam? Yeah. Are there things I get from Catholicism? Yeah. Are there things I could get from Ifa, Isheshe, Lukami, Santeria, Voodoo? Yeah. All of that. All of that. But at the end of the day, I got to do me, right? I don't live in Africa. I don't live in Haiti. You know what I'm saying? I don't live under the Moorish Empire. So I got to do me in 2025. My system got to serve me in 2025. So I take the best parts of the tree of life and leave the rest to rot, right? So you can't tether yourself to a system. Learn from the system and use the aspects to create your own system of personal development that works best for you. Now, I'm not knocking anybody. We all go through these things, right? Obviously, I grew up Jehovah's Witness. I also went to the Baptist church when I grew up. I went to the mosque, right? I went to the temples. I went to even Hindu temples, right? I've meditated with them, right? All on my spiritual journey, right? But eventually it's supposed to get you to a place of self-sovereignty, godhood, self-mastery. Jesus didn't teach Christianity. I'm going to say it again. Jesus did not teach Christianity. There's no verse in the Bible where Jesus says, go to church. In fact, Jesus was against the church, or Yeshua, if you want to be accurate, because there was no J in the Hebrew language, in ancient Hebrew. So Yeshua did not teach you to go to church. Yeshua did not teach you to follow a man, right? Yeshua taught you that you are God, that do you not know that ye are gods? In fact, when the Pharisees, when they asked him, like, are you God? He said, no, this is not written in your law. Psalms 82:3. It's not written in your, no, that's the original verse. John 10:34. It's not written in your law that ye are gods. So you are God, right? So act like it, become it, embody that, right? And not just in ego, but in action, right? The Superman archetype is the man or woman at the height of their divinity, at the height of moral character, what the Yoruba call Iwa, right? Which is my moral character, which is basically my eye. It's the same thing, right? The heart being balanced on the scale. It's the same thing. Let's continue. So Krypto represents the psychic leash, spiritual agreement, obedience, masters love. Just as Capricorn ruled by Saturn, he teaches even gods need handlers. Even Superman needs someone to obey, right? Loyalty becomes a contract, right? So again, cryptocurrency, you think about smart contracts, right? And also, you know what I'm saying? It teaches, again, that you have to obey this system. If you don't obey the system, right? If you don't follow the rules, if you don't listen to the laws, right? There's people who will tell you like, well, you know, people that get arrested illegally, let's say in these ICE raids, right? People that that have their papers, that were here, that lived here, but just look like somebody or was swept up. And that happens. That's why people are fighting back, right? Because there's people that actually are American citizens that look a certain way and are getting swept up. And for those of you say, well, it's not my problem, it has nothing to do with me, it has nothing to do with, if it starts with people from other countries, what do you think is going to happen to people that start to become more, as this system starts to crumble and gets more aggressive in quieting dissenters? What do you think they're going to do to them? What do you think they're going to try to do to people that speak out against empire, that speak out against government, that speak out against ills of society, right? They're going to start snatching them up without any due process as well. So we got to keep that in mind when we're so disconnected, because they don't look like us. They don't match our vessels, that we're not just ignoring what's really happening in front of our faces, right? Because if it's them first, they're always going to start, right? What did they do in the pandemic, right? They started small. It was just Tom Hanks, right? And Luther, the black dude from Luther, I think Idris Elba. It was just them two. a black guy and a white guy, right? Yin and yang. See how they play with the polarity? That's the Masonic checkerboard floor right there, right? And that's how that started like that. And then they shut down the NBA. And next thing you know, we was all home worrying. The cryptocurrency conditioning. Crypto equals crypto. The name itself is a spell. Crypto, safety. Crypto, loyalty. Crypto, protection. You're being hardwired to trust digital code over divine intuition. Your soul's loyalty is being converted into emotional currency inside the system or for the system. So again, this is what they're doing by putting crypto in the movie, right? And even in the movie, like, this might be a spoiler, so I ain't gonna, but watch it, okay? So this also relates to Anpu, all right? This is the archetype of Capricorn. Anpu or Anubis. Anubis, the ancient Egyptian god of the dead, is linked to Capricorn through his associations with order and timelessness. Oh, he said the first man to receive that Shmack Sheen was named William Shakespeare. Oh, wow. All right. Wow, that's prophetic. That is very prophetic. I did not know that. Junkyard Jelly says Psalms 82:6. Correct. Do you not know that ye are gods? Right? That's facts. So Anpu is an ancient Egyptian god of the dead and embalming, associated with death, rebirth, and transformation, sometimes linked to Capricorn due to these qualities. So dog, Sirius symbolism, which I think one of the people in the chat mentioned earlier. Dogs are sacred across African and Kemetic systems. The dog star Sirius was associated with Anubis, loyalty, protection, and resurrection. In Yoruba tradition, dogs are tied to Ogun, the pathmaker, the disciplined one. Krypto carries the Sirius frequency, anchoring Superman's divinity to Earth. All right? So Krypto carrying the Sirius frequency. Again, we are under that Sirius star as we speak. All right? It's the first star you'll see in the morning before you even see Venus, right? Which is the morning star. So Sirius is rising. And we're in the dog days of summer, right? So hence Krypto. So this is, again, the ritual, how they hardwire these things in your subconscious. But once you see it and you understand it, the spell is broken, all right? So Krypto, Anubis, and Capricorn in ritual. Krypto in the movie Super Pets acts like Anubis, loyal to the god Superman, grounded and protected, spiritually intuitive and pure. And just like Anubis walked with Osiris, Krypto walks with Superman or Set. During Capricorn's full moon, this loyalty is ritualized and programmed, anchoring Sirius, the dog star, through symbolism while reintroducing Anubis themes to the subconscious collective. So Anubis, this is Anubis, the scale of Ma'at is, or the Ma'at scale, or the scale of judgment is the Anubis scale, all right? Is the Anubis scale. So Ma'at is the feather representing the soul, right? Your intuition, inner knowing, hearing the voice of God, as they say, right? Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, those type of things, right? Intuitive psychic abilities that come online. And once you are doing the work, and the heart represents the masculine, right? The will, the will, the drive, the willingness to overcome and move past negativity, to live a life of righteousness, so to speak, to live a life of honor, right? To, it's not easy in this world where everyone is on the bullshit. Everybody's on demon time, right? Everybody's, moving in a space that's fake. It looks like the fake are winning. It looks like the people that aren't living truth are winning, right? But that's just surface level shit. The real truth is, the more you rise in consciousness, the more you rise in your divinity, the more you rise and live in truth, regardless of whom or what, right? The heart is about living truth, regardless of who or what the situation is. So let's say there's a situation where you could get over if you were stealing from a friend, right? You could steal from this friend and get away with it, possibly. But when you're living truth, you're like, nah, that's my friend. I would never burn them. There's some people who burn people left and right, burn bridges left and right, and then they talk about why my life is going this way. You know what I'm saying? Well, the scale is unbalanced. You know, the feather is the moral law as well. It's the solar law. It's solar laws, morals, right? It's and not human morality, but the morality of treating another person as you treat yourself. That is being light as a feather. Treating another person the same way you treat yourself. That is the moral compass. Because what you do to somebody else, you're doing to yourself. Your brain only recognizes you. So when you talk about other people negatively, your brain only hears you talking to yourself. That's the way your subconscious works. That's the way your conscious mind works. It's a self, your body is a self-protective organism. So it's going to respond to you with the energy that you put out, right? And this affects your neural pathway, which affects your thoughts. Your thoughts affect your emotions, and your emotions create a magnet that attracts things to you, right? AKA your electric thoughts and your magnetism emotions, right? Electromagnetism. That is the electromagnetism is the foundation of all magic and manifestation. If you don't have electricity, powerful thoughts, powerful ideas, powerful visions, right? And you don't feel these things to be real. You don't feel these things in your emotion. You don't feel like you got the big house. You don't feel like you could be in a good relationship. You don't feel like Black people could win and rise up and rule as kings and queens in divinity, right? Not as kings and queens just to be kings and queens and still be savages, right? But could rule in divinity. Because a lot of melanated people don't think that. For real, for real. You talk to even a lot of men, if you talk to them, there's a defeatist attitude. Well, they killed this prophet. Well, they killed Malcolm. Well, they killed Dr. King. Well, they killed this person. Well, they incarcerated. So you feel like you can't make no moves. And then what happens? You start looking for aliens to save you. You start looking for Jesus to save you. You start talking about entities behind the veil and spookism and shit like that. You stop being practical, right? You stop looking for your own purpose and you start getting into escapism. That is when you are unbalanced, right? You're too much in the mind, you're too much in the body, right? And you're not enough into action. You're not enough into making things happen. And this is what Capricorn is about, creating structures, creating systems, creating things that could last beyond you, right? Business, right? Capricorn is all about business as well. So these dog days of summers, this is what we want to look at, right? Making things happen, establishing new structures, things like that, right? As the Wu said, Wu-Tang, right? There's a Method Man always talks about walking their dogs, right? And this is walking your dog, right? So let's get into some of the signs, symbols, the spells of this particular science. Oh, peace, Margel. Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, please smash that like button. If you want to hit the donation, you like this type of work, you like this science, right? Help me to help you, all right? Because if there is no compensation, there's no likes, there's no comments at the end of these videos, really, it doesn't really make sense for me to do this, especially on this platform, right? I could be making money doing something else. I could be I could just know this for myself, right? And continue teaching my children, right? And let it pass down to them. So the more love you show, the more you'll get more of me, all right? Capricorn, and not just me. Let me say this, not just me. All your content creators, right? Because TD Jakes get a shit ton of money every Sunday, right? Joel Osteen gets a shit ton of money every Sunday. Creflo Dollar gets a shit ton of money every Sunday. But for somehow this mystical conscious community, a lot of times y'all don't donate to people. When y'all see me in these different groups, and some of y'all have seen me, like my man Ultra Instinct, even if you see like Stray Panther, you see me drop a donation, right? Just because nobody else is doing it. And once you do that, also, you're circulating energy, right? You're circulating funds. Thank you, Stray Panther. I don't do broke. Broke doesn't do me. But I understand the science of reciprocity. I understand the science of sowing seed and getting seed back. Again, I'm not telling you this and on some, prosperity preacher shit. I'm telling you this to benefit you, whether you give to me or not. Give to your favorites, right? Give to your favorites. But that money will always come back to you tenfold, because to give is to receive. When you give to others, you give to yourself. Whatever you give to others, you give to yourself. Whatever you do to others, you do to yourself. That is ma'at. That is divine law personified. Capricorn, earth sign, cardinal modality, ruled by Saturn, all right? December 22 to January 19th. Full moon in Capricorn, cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, and Capricorn. All right, they begin each season. They symbolize new starts associated with initiative. All right, so start something new. All right, whether it's a new relationship with your children, being that where the sun is in Cancer, right? You had a hard time with your baby mama. Send her some of her favorite music. You know what I'm saying? Say, you know, I apologize. Be humble. Say, I apologize. Even if me, let's say, even if sometimes you don't mean it, right? Just so you could be around your children if you have issues with them, right? Say, I apologize, man. I just want to fix this. I just want to get this right. Thank you, Alaskan Avatar. I appreciate you. Just, you know, say something positive to her, you know. If you're having, and vice versa, you know, you having issues with your baby daddy, sometimes he might be, you know, tough. You know, this is magic, folks, right? Magic is all about charm. Magic is all about charm. Let me tell you this. I've driven through New York City, New Jersey. If you ever been to New York City, New Jersey, you know, how the population is. New Jersey is totally different than New York City, right? But I've been pulled over in both cases. I've driven, and my first daughter's mother, no, my second one, I only got two. My second one, she will tell you this. I've driven through New York and New Jersey with no license for years. No license, just an ID. And in fact, I had a Toyota Camry that I had an accident in that was beat up. So I get stopped a lot in Jersey and New York because the Camry just looked like I might have, you know what I'm saying, the front was fucked up. So you know, I had the headlight tape and shit like that. So but it was still drivable. So I was driving it as long as I could until it finally broke down. So I remember being pulled over and shit like that. And I'd be like, I'll tell the cops, and this is something you should do when you around police officers. Don't react with fear. Don't react like they're already racist. That's programming. That's kryptonite for your brain, right? Say, how's your tour going, officer? First thing you say, how's your tour going? You see them in the street, think they're walking. Happy tour, officer, right? That's cop language. That's not something the average person says. So automatically, I'm speaking their language, right? I go to the Puerto Rican shops. I speak, hey, ¿qué pasó? ¿Qué lo que? Right? I go to Jamaicans, wagwan, right? I'm just talking about different people, right? I speak to a Jewish person. When I go to the jewelry store, Lahaim, right? This makes people, this is charm, folks. This is magic. This is grammar magic. Grammar, if you look at the etymology of the word grammar is a form of magic, right? So we got to become magicians, right? Out here, for real, for real. We can't just be talking about we lighting candles and we got, you know, honey pots and we hexing people that look like us all day long in every situation, right? That ain't just what magic's for. Magic is not about ghouls and ghosts and vampires and goblins and people under the stairs and shit like that. Yeah, that shit is cool to talk about. It's interesting, right? And I'm not saying some of that stuff I'm not interested in, because I am. But at the same time, knowledge of self is first, right? Man, know thyself is first. That's the mantra. Man, know thyself. It doesn't make sense if you know everything about, you know what I'm saying? The ghouls are hollow earth, but you don't know how your brain works. You don't know how your nervous system operates. But you know about ghouls and goblins in the forest that are hidden, that are beyond the veil. What the fuck is that? You know about Greys and all these aliens and harp, right? But you don't know how to rain dance. You don't know the science of rain dance that is from the people that you claim are foundational, Black Americans, the Native Americans. That's the real science. Fuck what a harp is doing. You're the original harp. We've been playing with weather forever. Where do you think they got the science from? There's a documentary on Prime Video called Rainmakers. Go watch it, right? This is stuff we've been doing. This is stuff we get paid for to do, to stop rain for events. through using deities and giving offerings to deities for particular things in humility. Commanding is for European occultists. I don't care what you say. I don't care who told you different. We don't command, we communicate, we commune, community, we commune with the gods. That is our culture. We not here to command shit. We work with, we're one with. All right. Oh, let's see. Quick share, great suggestion. Last night, my daughter's mother told me going forward to see our child go through the courts, and in my heart, I feel the same way. Yeah, that's cordial. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with that. You're still seeing your child. You're still impacting your child's life. Your child can still say they grew up with their mom or their dad, right? This is full moon and Capricorn shit. Structure. There's a structure now around your family. Full moon and Capricorn, structure, family, Cancer. This is perfect. This is a perfect illustration of this season, right? And I'm assuming you said your daughter's mother, so you're a father. So again, like I said earlier in the video, my daughter handed me my ass last night on a platter, but I needed it. And there's things I had to tell her, and she needed to hear it, right? But now we have a new structure on how to move forward in a better place. Not that we were in a bad place, but in a much better place, right? Much more positive place. So yeah, definitely handle it that way, man. The main thing is to be part of your children's lives, no matter what, and use charm to do so. I had an issue. Well, I ain't gonna tell me and my daughter's mother business, but let's just say I had an issue, and I had to send music, right? Oh, remember we listened to this? Remember we listened to that, right? And I'm just using one part of it, right? Because I don't want to expose the person, but I'm just and other charms to lower her defenses so that I could see my child. Because at one point, one of my daughter's mothers, she was playing hide and seek with my daughter because she was mad at me. All right. But I had to lower her defenses. Charm, magic. This is what it really is. It's supposed to impact your life. It's not supposed to be something you talk to your friends about it to impress them and to sound out of worldly. If spirituality is not affecting your reality, then it is vanity. If spirituality is not affecting your reality, it is vanity. If spirituality is not affecting your reality positively, it is vanity. Let's continue. Capricorn's elemental and planetary power: Earth, Saturn, grounded, mastery, karmic law, sacred boundaries. So the fact that Saturn is Earth means that it's feminine by nature, okay? So the Earth is orderly. When New York winter's going to come, in January it's going to be cold. February is going to be freezing cold in February in New York City. That's every year since I've been here, right? But when I lived out in Las Vegas, right, it wasn't cold it wasn't out freezing cold, but it was still cooler than it was in those 100, 105 degree weather out in Vegas, right? It's two different, but there's a science, right? These are things that's going to happen. When you wake up, you know the sun's going to be out. Even if it's cloudy, you know it's going to be daytime. When you wake up at 7 a.m., well, let's say 9 a.m., you going out to work or whatever, or 8 a.m., you going out to work, that sun's going to be out. You know it's going to be daytime. You're not going to see, it's not going to be like nighttime, right? It's going to be daytime. These are natural cycles, right? These are things that's going to happen. The rivers are going to run. When there's a full moon, the tide is going to ride high. You can't stop that. In indigenous societies, indigenous African society, they have a science or a personage called Muntu, M-U-N-T-U. And the story goes, the child, excuse me, the story goes, the child asks the parent, who is a Muntu? So the science is that everything has a spirit, right? In African spiritual technology, everything, the trees, the herbs, a cat, a dog, everything has its own spirit, right? So, and this spirit is Muntu. So the child looks at the sun and says, is the sun Muntu? The father says, yes. The child looks at the moon and says, is the moon Muntu? The father says, yes. A child looks at the lake and says, "Does the lake Muntu?" The father says, "Yes." And so the child says, "Well, am I Muntu?" The father says, "Yes." So he says to the father, "If I am Muntu and everything else is Muntu, how come I cannot move the sun or the moon in my favor when I would like?" And the father says, "Because a Muntu higher than you, a Muntu higher than you and more powerful than you controls that." Meaning universal law. My I, call it God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, right? I choose my I, universal law and order, right? So remember, everything has law and order, right? You could, yeah, you know, you could listen to Bobby Hemmett and drink peach soda when you're sick and see, think you go convert it to chlorophyll or whatever you think. And there is a science to that, right? But the science is that your body works a certain way. And if you keep drinking peach soda, your ass is going to get sick, right? Your ass is going to have some sort of diabetic, some sort of organ failure. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't hang me. You know what I'm saying? Don't assassinate me because I'm being critical of one of your leaders and teachers. I'm just telling you the truth. You could try it for yourself. You could see the examples of people who have done this, right? That have said this. You know what I'm saying? Where are they now? And again, I respect their teaching, but we got to build on the teachings as we evolve. It's 2025, not 2005, not 2015, not 1995. All right, we got to expound on these teachings as we grow. So let's continue. So Capricorn, the sea goat, recovered by Saturn, cardinal earth sign, December 22 to January 19, tarot card, the devil. All right, and the number for Capricorn is the number 8. All right. So the tarot card corresponds to Capricorn. Tarot card, the devil, corresponds to Capricorn. Symbolizes material, bondage, and shadow self. Depthful insights into human behavior and deep desires. So if you look at the devil card, which represents Capricorn, you see these two people are bound by chains. Now, this could be, you know, not only materialism, right, but this could be sex, this could be drug abuse, this could be alcoholism, this could be anything that lowers your frequency or takes you away from your divine mission, right? Even weed abuse, right? Marijuana abuse, mushroom, which is now a thing, mushroom abuse, right? These substances do help you change and transform, right? They do help you tap into other realities, right? They do help you see beyond the veil in some cases. But again, we don't want to be crutches to substances, right? We use the substances, but we don't want to be addicts, right? The real mushroom is right here, right? The endocannabinoid system is, or when you smoke weed, it's already in your body. That's the reason weed, marijuana triggers it, right? It's already in your body, right? So all these things that the dopamine, the oxytocin, right? These biochemicals that are activated when you take these things that, you know, activate your DMT and what's not, dimethyltryptamine, they're all already in you. So you can access these things through breath work. You can access these things through meditation. You can access these things through yoga. You can access these things through pranayama. You can access these things through doing vinyasa poses, right? You can access these things through qigong, et cetera, et cetera. There's many different modalities, right? Reading Montauk Chia books and learning how, as a man, to conserve your sperm, right? And use that sperm energy to power up your desires, right? For women, how to use blood magic, right? And I didn't see the video, but I think Queen Poe, her name is Queen Poe. She dropped a video yesterday about like how women could use menstrual as powerful magic, which is true. It's not just to bind niggas, right? That's like the weakest version. And I'm gonna say this: if you need to use blood to bind somebody, if you need to use your sperm to bind somebody, you weak as fuck. Like, you weak. That's just what it is. You weak. You don't believe in yourself. You have no self-esteem for real. I'm telling you the truth. You don't really know. You don't really have your self-value. Because why would you want to put somebody under emotional slavery, which is what binding is? Why would you put somebody for emotional slavery to stay with you? That doesn't really love you for you. That doesn't really care about you, for who you truly are. It's a weak person. It's a weak-minded person. And what you sow, you will reap. So that person that you think you are binding, you might be binding more than you asking for, especially if shit goes bad. Because these binds, secret binds, are broken during all binds are broken during any type of eclipse. So anytime there's a solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, bind broken automatically. Now, if you're a person weak-minded, weak-hearted, you know what I'm saying, got all sorts of shit in your body and toxins, then maybe it won't be broken, right? Negative-minded, then it may not be broken. But if you're a person that is on some sort of path, have good character, right? Even if you're like a Christian, but trying to be the good Christian, so to speak, quote unquote, good Christian, right? 9 times out of 10, you'll big that shit. Or you're just an overall person that's trying to, you know, treat people the way you want to be treated, right? Have empathy and compassion for people. So the devil card is also about this as well. Binding, right? Look at the fucking card, right? It's about binding, trapping people. Saturn, control, right? Prison is a Capricorn element, right? Let's continue. So the numerology of the number 8. 8 is the power of infinity made manifest. It governs karma, wealth, and legacy. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, vibrating to the rhythm of structure and discipline. Build slow, build high, build forever. This is the number of the architect and the God body entrepreneur. So I have a Capricorn in my family that's very close to me. And this Capricorn, Capricorns, they great with business, right? They're great with, they're probably the best workers. Like if you got a team of Capricorns in your business, you're going to always strive because they're very innovative. They're always wealth aligned. Like I've never met a Capricorn that wasn't somehow materialistic, right? Capricorns are materialistic people. It just is what it is, right? And, they could do damn near everything, right? But Capricorns would rather play the background, right? Capricorns don't really necessarily want to be the boss all the time. A lot of times they like to play the background and they like to just implement the systems, right? They're about systems. They're about creating things. Like this person in my family, they created like a system at their job and they left the job, but that job is still using the system that they created, right? So they're very good at creating systems, all right? So, and these systems last forever. If you build a system for your family, right, they last forever. And that system could be books. That system could be, your business. That system could be your creation. That system could be, whatever, right? Let's say you make model trains, right? You got a system of making model trains and model planes, right? That's a system, right? That you could teach somebody else, like a shoemaker, right? For people, cobblers, so to speak. That's a system that you could teach to somebody on how to make their own shoes. And maybe that person that learns that cobbling will innovate on, that's what's supposed to happen, right? Innovate on cobbling and so forth and so on. It's just like the Ford Model T, the original car, the Ford Model T. The Ford Model T couldn't stay the Ford Model T. It had to evolve into newer cars. These are people improving on the system, right? Creating their own systems, right? So build slow, build high, and then these things will last forever, right? We all know about the Hummer from the 1990s, right? The Hummer vehicle, right? Now, the Hummer didn't last in popularity, right? But it was something that was very popular at one point. It's something that someone built. And now you see things that were the Hummer model, but what's the improvement on the Hummer is the Cybertruck. The Cybertruck is the new Hummer. Okay, so Elon Musk and them, Tesla, innovated on a system that was already there. All right. So that's God body entrepreneurship. So the sea goat perspective, Capricorn, the sea goat, is being of two realms, half mountain goat, half fish. It climbs the earthly peaks while remembering its celestial oceanic origin. This duality speaks to mastery over both the material and mystical. Capricorn reminds us discipline is not restriction, but spiritual architecture. Legacy is not ego, but soul work laid in stone. So again, right? Mastery over the material and the mystical. You cannot play one side of the force. You cannot just most people in this magic, spiritual, mystical realm are just people with a lot of knowledge. They're people with a lot of book knowledge. There's people with a lot of research. They're very articulate, right? They know what to say, you know, much more articulate than I am, right? They know how to say, they know how to impact you in a certain way, right? And it's very seductive, right? Very charming, right? Remember I talked about the power of charm. However, if you're not living these principles, right? Let's use a Dr. Umar Johnson, for example, right? I'm not saying he's a mystic, but he is a leader, so to speak, in the quote unquote conscious community, right? If you know, you could think what you want to think about Umar, but his character has been compromised. Go watch a Lennon Honor video on YouTube, all right? And he spends, I think, I feel like I've seen Lennon Honor's video on my timeline, my YouTube timeline, all week this week. He's on Umar's ass for whatever reason. And some of the things he's dropping about Dr. Umar, it's undeniable. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot. I'm not going to go into all of it, but all right. Can y'all hear me now? Can y'all hear me now? Yeah, can y'all hear me now? Let me know if y'all can hear me. Okay, Straight Panther said I'm good. All right. So I'm gonna go with I'm good. Hold on, let me see if I hear myself. Okay, so I hear myself. All right, perfect. Yeah, I don't know why the mic went out. But yeah, I didn't say much though. All right, let's continue. That's a sign. I gotta get out of here. All right, we at the 2 hour mark. Well, shout out to y'all for hanging out with me for the 2 hours. I know it's the midday. I usually do these at night, and I'm gonna get back to doing them at night because that's I like the nighttime. That's just I'm very nocturnal as a Scorpio. I was born late at night, so this works for me, and it's just a better time. Even like I feel like I articulate myself better at night. But I appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, the mic is definitely glowing. The mic is definitely glowing. This is if you're interested in getting this mic, this is a hyper quadcast. It's on sale too for the I caught it on a nice sale. Very good quality mic though. I caught this on sale, I think for $69. Normally it's like $100 and something if you're interested. So you could, if you do the podcasting, right? Let's see. So all right. So no North Node, right? And we talked about this in our New Moon and Cancer video. So check that out. The North Node is your soul's evolutionary target. During the full moon, karmic doors swing open, which we're under now. You're being called to step into divine responsibility. Let go of emotional dependency and rise into spiritual maturity. Create your own system. Become your own God. Capricorn says, build what lasts. Destiny does not beg. Destiny does not beg for the Essence Fest to include Indigenous Americans or African American culture. It requires, Destiny does not beg for the Carnival Cruise Lines to include us, right? It requires, it creates, it builds. Let's go to the right. The goat must climb. So Capricorn is the only zodiac symbol that climbs from the ocean's depths to the summit. It goat horns. It represents the soul's journey from survival to spiritual mastery. Every obstacle is an invitation to ascend. This is the grind, the climb, the call to high places. The real test of Capricorn isn't strength, it's elevation. Will you rise without losing your roots? You know, the goal is for you to get all this money, for you to get rich, right? And for you to get it all and realize it wasn't worth it. Well, not it wasn't worth it, but it wasn't what you think it was. And as a person who's been around people, growing around people with, you know, significant amount of resources, let's say, you come to a point where you realize that money is not everything, right? You come to a point once you there's a certain point of financial success where you're able to buy everything you want and have a lot of money left over. And at that point, it's about who you are. Because currency, which is money, any sort of currency that you have in abundance is only going to amplify who you are. It's only going to amplify your heart's desire. It's only going to amplify your north node. So if you want to understand your purpose, look at your north node. That is your destiny. That is, and look at the careers and the things that surround that, right? That is your destiny. That is your purpose. There are things that align with that, but you also look at your south node. That's what you were in your past life. In this life, your north node is to correct, right? Correct and integrate your south node into your north node purpose. So you got to climb, right? You got to climb from within the ocean's depths to the summit of the goat horns, right? Which represent the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the storehouse of memories. The hippocampus is what stores, but not just memories. Cancer, full moon in Cancer, which represents the emotions. So it's the emotion of the memory that is stored in the hippocampus, not the actual memory itself, but how the memory feels. And then the pituitary gland and everything else secretes hormones in the body. This is why when you think back to a past bad event, you feel bad, right? There's a physical reaction because the hippocampus remembers that past negative event and it sends hormones to the body. This is why it's important for forgiveness, not just for them, for yourself. And it is important to go in meditation, as I always say, and reframe your traumas to where you're the winner, to where you, because it's all about your imagination. The power of imagination is very real and deeper than most people think. So let's look at this before we get into that, because I want to break this down really quick. So let's look at this. Make sure y'all can see what I can see. All right, so let's look at this. This is a goat climbing, all right? And this is how you climb up the tree of life, or your chakras, right? Opening up your chakras from the root to the crown. This is where you get the goat archetype of Capricorn, right? It comes from an actual animal, or the animation port, so the animism of the self, right? We are animated. We come with spirits, right? So there are times we may be climbing, right? Or climbing through. We got a struggle. We got a hardship. We got a challenge that we have to rise above, right? We have to climb above. We're dealing with somebody that's negative, right? We got to rise above. We got to figure out how to climb past this situation, right? So this is this particular archetype and where it comes from. So we see that this is the archetype of the goat, right? This is the archetype of the goat. Saturn in the spine, the backbone of discipline. Saturn rules the bones, especially the spine, our inner pillar of truth. In the Capricorn season, your posture reflects your power. A misaligned spine equals misaligned purpose. Straighten up, stand firm, stand tall. Saturn rewards structure, not slouching. This is alignment from the inside out. So you have to stand up for yourself, right? You have to speak your truth. You have to set your boundaries. There's a lot of people, speaking of relationships, right? There's a lot of people who get in relationships with people. And this is something that I see when I do, consultations with women a lot, where they will dumb themselves down to be with a man. Like they'll dumb down their whole, and men do it too. You know what I'm saying? And I've done it with women myself. So I'm not saying it's a gender thing, right? I definitely don't do the gender wars. But there are times where you know, I definitely see it more with women where they will like, they'll deal with a guy that can't even spell, and they're like doctors and doctorates, and they'll deal with a guy that can't even text and spell correctly, right? Or they'll deal with, you know, a guy who is, you know, super hood again, but they might be, you know, very corporate and things like that. You know, it's not balanced. Now, if this person that is super hood is providing something that maybe you that has the degree or you that is well read don't have, that's a different story, right? But if you're lowering yourself, if you're limited your knowledge, like you read all these books on mysticism, science, and supreme mathematics and esoteric knowledge, but you're dealing with a Christian, right? And this is not to say like Christians are bad people or anything like that, or you can't do that. But there is going to be a lot of clashes in ideology. There's going to be a lot of clashes in how you and her, or you and him, move throughout the world. There is going to be a lot of clashes on how you do, you know, how you raise yourself, right? What do you do for comfort? What do you do for enlightenment? What do you do? And then you just want to share certain things with your partner, right? You want to share, like, I read this thing or I saw this movie. Like, I want to have a partner where I talk about Superman. Like, yo, did you see in this the Superman? Like, did you see what they doing? You see how they reinforcing cryptocurrency, right? You see how Lex Luthor's wearing black and it's all about Saturn, right? You see the science of monkeys and they talking about really Tahuti and how they control people with magic, right? Like, I want to talk to somebody that I'm in a relationship with things like about things like that. That makes the relationship better. You know what I'm saying? So do you have a backbone when you are in a relationship, right? And also the spine deals with Kundalini energy, right? Rising up the Christ consciousness, rising up the 33 vertebrae of the spine up into the pineal gland, right? So where you get higher spiritual awareness. So we really need to work on, you know, channeling energy from within instead of without. And that's really what the spine is. And the best way to do that, again, is through breath work, some sort of yoga, some sort of pranayama, some sort of vinyasa, some sort of qigong, right? Exercise, walking, jogging, right? You gotta, if you can physically, right? We know people have certain ailments, but even if you have a certain physical ailments, we all are breathing. So the least you could do is meditate, at the very least. Let's continue. We're almost done, y'all. So the Saturn return portal, right? Another Capricorn theme. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, as we illustrated earlier. The theme: maturity, discipline, and karmic mastery. The Saturn return is a rite of passage. Around ages 28, 30, 50, 58 to 60, Saturn returns to its natal position, testing everything you've built. It demands structure, wisdom, and responsibility. What is unstable will collapse. What is true will crystallize. This is the gateway to mastery. You don't survive Saturn, you become Saturn, all right? So Saturn return, I know I had my Saturn return, one of them but I'm not in these ages, but just astrologically, right? Your Saturn return can be in different ages. It doesn't have to be in these ages illustrated above, but those are just the dominant ages. 28 to 30 and 58 to 60. But I know when I turned 30, like 30 was like crazy time for me. Like I remember going 30 and just like, damn, I'm 30. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just felt like, and you know, looking back, like I felt like the world was gonna end. I wasn't where I thought I was supposed to be. I wasn't where I thought I would things I was supposed to be doing, you know, and it's kind of spiraled into a depression, right? But it's also kind of the time where I acknowledge my seasonal, because I was diagnosed with seasonal depression. So in the winter, like I gotta be like take a lot of vitamin D, get a lot of sun, right? Things like that. Because New York, it gets very dark and very cold during the winter. And I had to, you know, take certain supplements, ashwagandha, St. John's wort, rhodiola, right? Different adaptogens, things I've given you in the new moon video on Cancer to heal and work on my biochemistry, because everything is mind, body, not just mind, right? The world is mind, but mind rules the body, right? Without mind, the body is not going to run properly. So the whole goal is to, again, right, become stable, have some sort of order. What do you do in the mornings? What do you do during the midday? What do you do at night to reinforce your spiritual power? It's not going to come by watching YouTube videos. It's not going to come by going on retreats. It's not going to become by reading one black book called the Bible or the Quran or the Torah. It's not going to come just by reading people's statuses on YouTube, watching TikTok, watching Instagram videos, right? Or watching Rob Blackstorm. It's going to come when you decide, I'm going to do this in the morning. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to work out. I'm going to write affirmations. I'm going to journal. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to drink water that I've put my mantra under, right? I put a word on affirmation or a paper with some affirmations or some things that I want before I go to bed. I put that. This is magic, right? I put that paper down, right? Put a glass of water on it, right? Cover the glass of water. And then in the morning, drink it. If you have a question, that's something you could do as well, a pressing question. You get a glass of water, with that glass of water, you write the question that you want. Drink that glass of water. I guarantee that day you will have that answer. Again, it depends on your body's toxicity, right? Or levels of toxicity or non-toxicity. You know if you eat a lot of bullshit. I don't know that, right? But if you are actively working on, what type of food that you intake and balancing it out, then you will be able to get the answers even quicker, right? But the answer is going to come regardless, right? It may take days. You may have to do this 3-4 times, right? But at this point, and I'm not bragging nothing, but really I could do that like tonight. If I have a question about tomorrow, I wake up, I drink it. And I usually wake up like around 7 a.m. So by 9-10 a.m., I'm going to have the answer's going to come to me. I drink that water and I go about doing what I'm doing, and boom, the answer's going to come to me. Try it out. Don't believe me. So this ain't light work, all right? This is not light work. This is not for the weak. This is you tapping in, right? This is you going in. This is you. The force is with you, young Skywalker. All right, tapping into that force. You don't know the power of the dark side. All right, so this Capricorn path is not for the faint of heart. It demands shadow work, soul excavation, and spiritual discipline. This ain't just about moon magic. It's about mastery through the mud. This full moon in Capricorn exposes what you've avoided. It holds a mirror to your maturity. Are you built for the weight of your greatness? Are you built for this, right? Are you really built for this? Are you really trying to become a god here on earth? Are you really trying to become a master? Are you really trying to maximize the power of your Heka or your throat chakra? Are you really trying to make sure your visions come to life? Are you really trying to be magic without any talismans, without any charm, without even any candles? Walking magic, because you've done enough magic. So when you walk, your aura, your electromagnetic field impacts things around you. And this goes for money. This goes for women, men. This goes for relationships. This goes for, you know what I'm saying? Like, even like me and Black Dot, right? Who I interviewed last week. Like when I met Black Dot, like it was when I met Black Dot, it was very interesting because when I came in, like he kind of knew me. And I'm guessing from Facebook, he was like, "What's up, King?" But there was like a knowing in his smile, right? And when I met him, I was watching him on Urban X like for years. So it was like a knowing, you know what I'm saying? So there was an automatic connection. So for me to ask him to interview him, which I'm humbly and grateful for that interview, and go watch that interview if you haven't. Like, it's a lot of gems in there that Black Dot was dropping, and cop his book as well. But those type of connections don't just happen like happenstance, right? They're not just things that, and there's people that I brought on this channel in the past that, just fuck with me for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not like in my ego about it. All praises due to the great Muntu, to the Most High, right? To Source, to the universe, right? Which exists within me as well, right? But this is the byproducts of the work, right? And there's more things manifesting. You know what I'm saying? More things manifesting. I can't even tell y'all, right? I can't even tell y'all, but the things that are happening in my life right now, mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? and I'm fully committed to this work. You know what I'm saying? But I need y'all help. I need y'all help for real. And Capricorn and collective ascension. Capricorn teaches the soul how to climb, not just materially, but spiritually. It reminds the tribe legacy is a ladder. When one rises, all rises. This is the sign of collective excellence, where your personal discipline becomes communal power. In every step, you leave a path. Okay, still in every step, you leave a path behind for others to ascend. Climb, not just for you, but for the lineage behind you and the ancestors watching above. This is high frequency responsibility. This is the Capricorn way. If I say the name Rockefeller, you know it because it's a family, it's a lineage. If I say the name Chase, you know it because it's a family, it's a lineage. If I say the Waltons from the Walmart family, you know them because it's a family, a lineage, right? These are companies that's been established for years, way past the founders, the Carnegies, right? Family, lineage, right? These are things that are done by an individual that has impacted their family way beyond them in business, right? So when you yourself, the viewer watching this, starts to step into your power, like people always say, like for instance, the Black community, right? People always say the quote unquote Black community, right? Or the melanated community. People always say, Black people need to come together. Black people need to form community. Black people need to form unity. I say no. The individual melanated person needs to become a community unto himself. He needs to first form a community with his immediate family. And if his immediate family doesn't fuck with him, he needs to, or her, they need to create their own family outside of their immediate family. For instance, I have issues with my mother and father, right? Me and my mother's relationship is getting stronger recently, which is a blessing, right? But still got some issues with my father, right? But at the same time, I still love them for what they've done. But at the same time, they're not me, right? I'm what you call the black sheep, and not really a sheep, black sheep, because a sheep is still a sheep, right? But I'm not a sheep at all, but I'm a black goat, right? I'm a black goat. So as the black goat in the family, I am, an anomaly. They don't understand me. Why am I into this magic shit? Why am I into this esoteric philosophy? Why do I read the books that I read? Why am I not just a Christian like everybody else in the family? Why do I think the way that I think? That's different than everyone else in the family, including all my close family members, the ones, I'm saying my father's and my son's and my sister's side, right? Or my father and my mom's side, right? Why am I the way that I am? Why do I create the way that I create? Why do I think the way that I think, right? So I'm here to leave another system. So I'm writing a book, right? My second book is coming, right? And it's going to be something that I am putting forth as a codex. It's not just for me, but for generations that live beyond me, for my children's children to pick up, and you'd be able to utilize some of these tricks and techniques and this magic things and these mystical things. And this is the responsibility, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? There's certain things I had to cut off. Can't smoke weed as much, right? Because it dulls my intuition, my intuitive abilities, which I've talked about with you guys that have followed me on the journey. You know what I'm saying? Certain women I got to stay away from, right? Which is a revelation that came to me earlier this year, right? I love women. Rob Blackstorm loves some women, man. So, there's certain women I just got to say no to, right? There's certain things I got to say no to, right? There's certain responsibilities that if I'm going to do this work that I have to cut off, and I have to and I have to be responsible for and implement and start anew. So this is the Capricorn way, right? This is the Capricorn way. So let's get into some more of what's going on. A little bit of current events, right? We have, let me blow this up one now. Let me do it like this. All right. So we have Trump. He's called for the federal government to take over Washington. And he has complained that local leaders weren't effective and arguing the city has become riddled with crime. I'm reading on the right. According to preliminary data from the Metropolitan Police Department, violent crime is down 25% from this time last year, and all crime is down 8%. So Trump is suggesting taking over New York City and Washington, right? This is fascism, right? This is fascism. This is like what the guy that all the small hats hate, right? This is what he tried to do in Germany, right? You guys know who I'm talking about. Name rhymes with fiddler, right? Name rhymes with fiddler, so we're going to use fiddler. But he's trying to be a new fiddler, right? He's trying to fiddle people into this tune, right? And we know, right? Orange Man, he has a strong cult following, right? And they'll do whatever he says, and they'll feel whatever he says is right. Right? These are people that are emotionally misguided. But this is what he's trying to do. And he's announced this on a during the Sirius Gateway, where he also had this July 4th, ritual to reinforce American hegemony across the world, right? And implant that into the mind of the people, right? Implant this into the mind of the willing sheep-like subconscious. So these are some of the, so again, don't think this is not the last days of the world, but this is the last day of empire. These are the last days of American empire. These are the last days of American empire and the last days of the age of Aquarius. So in the end, we win, right? But we're going to have to fight to win. And we're going to have people that are stepping up into their higher self. We're going to have divine beings. We're going to have noble people. We're going to have people that you can rely on, people that you could depend on, people that you could trust, people that you could leave children around, people that you could leave your women, your man around, that have morals and principles, right? And not no human morals and principles, but morals and principles for the divine, meaning that if I had a relationship and I had a wife or I had a husband, I wouldn't want somebody to sleep with my wife or my husband. I wouldn't want somebody to betray me. I wouldn't want somebody to abuse my children. I wouldn't want somebody to talk to my children that way, right? That's God. That's an open third eye for real. Like you want to see ghouls, goblins behind the veil, and trust me, from somebody, me, I said it, me, from somebody who can see that shit in real time. There's some shit you don't want to see. There's some shit you don't want to see. You think you want to see beyond the veil until you can see beyond the veil. And say it again. Some of you think you want to see beyond the veil, but you ain't ready. Some of the spirits beyond the veil look ghoulish, crazy. And if you approach it from a fear-based mind, which is what a lot of people with anxiety do when they come into this spiritual realities, right? And you see beyond the veil and you see them and you can't greet these people like men and women without fear, oh, they're going to fuck with you. See, a lot of y'all ain't ready for what you think you are ready for because you have to work on these chakras, right? You have to really be accountable for yourself and see where you're weak and really do the work. Do the work with these chakras. And I'm going to do a standalone video on chakras because I think it's time to really hone into that, right? But you got to really do the work so that when you see beyond the veil, you're able to know what you're seeing. You're able to navigate through what you're seeing. And you're not about to be gang stalked and tracked by certain spirits. Some people are coming online right now and they feel like they're being gang stalked. I got somebody in my family that's going through that. I'm like, yo, no, you're not being gang stalked. You coming online. So these ancestors are talking to you, but you got both sides of ancestors in you, right? You got yin and yang ancestors in you. That's what they call the voice of God and the devil on your shoulder, right? So you got ancestors that are benevolent, right? That are kind, that want to coach you, that want to tell you do the right thing. And you got ancestors on the other side that want to see you burn, that want to see you crash out, that want to see you do some bullshit. And a lot of times they'll enter while you're drunk, right? This is the whole sinners thing, right? They'll enter while you're high. They'll enter while you're in the club. They'll enter while, you're on mushrooms. Yes, they will enter while you're on mushrooms if you don't have the right energetic resonance. That's why you got to be careful. You go to these communes with people, right, that you think are cool, that you meet on the internet. And the first thing sometimes a lot of these people want to give you is drugs. They want to give you weed. They want to give you mushrooms. They want to give you entheogens. They're trying to soften you up. They're trying to soften you up, right? So that they could carve you up or have you part of their cult, right? And have you now a slave to their system. and a slave to their control. If you are in a system currently and you don't have at least one thing that you think is wrong or one thing that you question, then I'm here to tell you that you are a sheep. Even no matter what system, no matter what ATR, what religion, you should question something about it. There should be something that's just not for you. There should be something that's just not for you. Yeah, you might do it because you're loyal to the system, but you don't think it's right. For instance, I was talking to somebody who was in an Ifa, right, a priestess, and she does not like. She loves animals. She loves animals, and she did not like the animal sacrifice part of Ifa. Now, for those who think that the animal sacrifice is wrong, I mean, how do you get your hamburger? How do you get your Popeyes? How do you get your, you get these from animals, right? You get beef, you get, pork. For those of you who eat pork, right? You're getting these things from animals, so they got to be sacrificed, right? Take it from somebody who killed the chicken as a child, right? You got to. That's how it gets on your plate, whether you know it or not. So animal sacrifice is not as deep as y'all think it is, or as bad as y'all think it is, right? But you have to come to the realization that you are here for self-mastery, for self-knowledge, self-awareness, and to rise to the highest of heights. You are here to take on that Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality to where you're here to be the best you could be. And that does take work, and it does take you separating from the pack. It does take you being different. But we need soldiers in the army of the Lord, so to speak. And this is the time, because it's only going to get worse before it gets better. But it will not get worse for you. I promise you. I promise you this. It will not get worse for you. You'll see it coming. You'll be able to anticipate it. Spirit will tell you how to move, where to move, what to move, when to go, when not to go. Your conscience, not your conscious, your conscience, your conscience. Remember conscience? Remember people talked about they had a conscience? How many spiritual people you hear talk about having a conscience nowadays? Right? Your conscience, that's the voice of God. That's the voice of the divine. That's clairaudience. That's really what clairaudience is. These things will come online. And right now, during the summer, when your melanin is at the highest, right, the highest level of receptivity, you want to walk out, be out in the sun, be out in these natural environments, thinking of all type of plans and ideas and getting your crown load, so to speak, so that you can move on. Because this is war. This is war against you, all right? But look what's happening on the other side, right? Killer whales are giving fish to humans worldwide. Killer whales have been reportedly seen offering food to humans in the wild, a behavior that's baffling researchers. These whales are often lingered or made second attempts. So why do whales want to give food to people? What do the animals know that we don't know, right? So these whales often lingered or made second attempts, raising questions about their intent and their capacity for cross-species connections. So imagine something called a killer whale is offering food to humans on beaches worldwide. Okay, this was July 8th. This ain't no old story. This is during the Sirius window that we're in. Let's go to the right. They warned us, right? Scientists are alarmed after 3 giant apocalypse fish. Now that's the scary part. That's media, right? We ain't calling them apocalypse fishes here. Mysteriously washed ashore in just 1 week. In a stunning turn of events, 3 colossal oarfish have mysteriously washed across the coast of Tasmania and New Zealand within 1 week, reigniting ancient myths and sparking scientific curiosity about these elusive deep sea giants. Okay. And I was at a place here in the Bronx. There's a place with a powerful ley line, right, in the Bronx, which I'm not going to tell everybody where it is because it's only for Cuban links, as the Raekwon said, right? But I've told like 1 or 2 people so far, and you could now the animals, like I had a damn what they call it, chipmunk. Chipmunk came in my lap. I'm sitting down. True story. Came on my lap, sat down, looked at me, did his little and kept it pushing. There was other people in this particular part. There's what they call real life Canadian gooses, right? And in this particular part, there's all sorts of species that you won't see in the Bronx that actually gather in this particular habitat, right? And there's ocean, there's a little small pool there, but the amount of different species that come there, man, it's crazy. And it's a great place to do rituals too, right? And you have these in your towns, you know what I'm saying? If you do some research, you'll find them. But anyway, you know, like you could get like close to these birds, and they're not moving, they're not budging, like they're not scared anymore. So something's going on. And remember the movie Avatar? Remember Avatar, like when they had to fight against the people that came to their planet? What happened? The animals started getting active with them, right? The animals started fighting with them because they were connected to the spirit of nature on their planet. They were connected to Home Tree. So based on my perception, that's what I think is coming up next. I think we're going to see animals aligning with humans. I think we're going to get back to the spiritual animal connection. And I think there's going to be people who are specifically going to be able to really talk to animals and communicate with animals on some Aquaman shit, on some psychic connection shit, to where they're going to be able to control animals at their will without the use of breeding and things like that, right? So we're in some interesting times. And also, goodbye to a popular theory. I hate when I hear this. I hate when I hear people say, oh, there were slaves that built the pyramids, right? So this debunks all that. A team led by Egypt's former, goodbye to a popular theory. Archaeologists discover who really built Egypt's Great Pyramids. A team led by Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities finds evidence that the pyramids were built by skilled workers. A study led by renowned Egyptian and former Egyptian Minister of Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, has uncovered previously unseen markings of the Pyramid of Cheops, offering compelling evidence that skilled workers rather than slaves built the pyramids. All right? So don't let anybody tell you that your ancestors had Hebrew slaves and shit like that building the pyramids, that biblical myth, that biblical ritual, that biblical spell that they put on the masses. You know, I hear people that are quote unquote, you know, high in spiritual knowledge repeating shit like this, that they had slaves that built the pyramid. You know, I've even heard somebody, Billy Carson, say that slaves built the pyramids, right? And, you know, people were slaves for gold and built the pyramids, which you got from Zachariah Stitchin, right? So be careful out here for who you following and who you know, and who you listening to. Take the fruit, right? But research, do your own research. So, I come with solutions. I'm not here just to tell you the doomsday and the world's going to end, right? I'm here to tell you how to survive and how to thrive and how to align with your higher self so that you could see through the illusions and you're prepared. So one of the things you want to get, one of the things that a lot of melanated people have issues with is they don't have enough magnesium in their body, right? A lot of us have magnesium deficits. So if you look on the left, brain composed of copper, right? Carbon, pineal gland. You have an electric nervous system. You're an electromagnetic being. Capricorn rules the spine, which we talked about earlier. So ionized or electrified minerals are needed to nourish the body and maintain the body's nervous electrical system, which is connected to the brain. All motor functions are governed by the body's electric nervous system. The fact that the human body is composed of the same elements found within the earth allows parts that contain these same elements to actually complement the human body. This is a process known as chemical affinity. Charged minerals needed to power the electromagnetic body are able to be obtained from natural food sources. So you could get this from Amazon, right? It's not expensive, probably less than $20. Trace minerals, right? Which I had some, but I actually ordered some recently, so it should be coming here tomorrow. But magnesium is required for cellular energy production and supports over 300 biochemical reactions in the body. All right. So you want to get some of these trace minerals, trace magnesium minerals, and they have another one that's if you work out, that's 40,000 volts, right? If you work out and you're active, you got a job that's physically demanding, take that shit. It'll give you energy, right? It'll give you energy better than coffee, I promise you, throughout the day. Capricorns, crystal allies. Black tourmaline, onyx, smoky quartz. Capricorn resonates with grounding and protective stones like black tourmaline, onyx, garnet, and smoky quartz. These crystals offer protection, focus, and ancestral connection. They anchor Capricorn's mountain climbing spirit and shield against energetic distraction. Hold one while meditating on your legacy. Place one on at your altar. Let the stone teach you how to stay rooted while you rise. All right. So these are Capricorn crystals that you want to get. These are also protective crystals to protect you from, because again, when you are tapped into the spirit world, you're tapped into the spirit world. So the spirit world has both negative and positive entities. These are facts. But if you move with a certain, you move with the breastplate of righteousness. And if you look in the Bible, the breastplate of righteousness has crystals in it. This is why when people are like crystals are demonic, you could tell they didn't read their Bible. They just listened to their preacher and T.D. Jakes and Creflo Dollar hooping and hollering and shit. But they didn't really read their Bible. Because the breastplate of righteousness in the Bible has a ton of crystals in it. All right. In fact, it has onyx and crow smoky quartz. Don't believe me. Read it yourself. And the final activation. All right. Sit in silence. Ground your energy. Speak your intention out loud. Write one goal on paper and burn it to release resistance. Simple ritual. Okay. Call on your ancestors, Saturn, and your higher self. Close your eyes. Visualize your future self embodied. Breathe in your bones, stand like a mountain. You are the temple. You are the timekeeper. You are the master of manifestation. So what I'm doing and what I'll do, always do in the future is the new moon. I give you the main big ritual, all right, to set you off according to the mandates of that particular astrological sign. And during the full moons, all you have to do is now amplify that, right? Just do something to amplify whatever you had. And you should have already seen residues of whatever you were trying to manifest or create or elevate in or change behavior in. And you should be using magic to change behavior. You should be using an altar to alter behavior. That is negative behavior that's not serving you. Addictions, right? Things that you know are against your higher self. And I'm not talking about like mundane things only. I'm talking about things that, okay, like for instance, Straight Panther dropped this. He said he uses trace minerals. He also takes sea iodine and magnesium pills. Now, sea iodine and magnesium pills together with trace minerals, what they do, if you don't use toothpaste with matter of fact, I don't want to hear nobody saying they got an open pineal gland and then I'll go to their house and I see them using Colgate, right? Or I see them using some type of, they don't have a filter on their, you should have a filter, like a water filter that takes out minerals, right? That has charcoal or carbon to be precise, right? You want to have a water filter like a Brita or something like that because you don't want to continue to calcify your pineal gland. All right. If you brushing your teeth with Colgate and shit now like that, you're calcifying your pineal gland. I'm telling you that now. Especially that's the first thing you do, right? And it's on purpose, right? The water has high fluoride and other trace minerals and microplastics, right? So you definitely, if you're using some sort of like Colgate, Crest, some shit like that, throw that shit in the garbage today, right? Throw that shit in the garbage. Go get some Toms. Go get you some alternatives, right? There's plenty of alternatives. There's charcoal toothpaste. Matter of fact, let me show you some shit I use. It's right here. So you could get something like this. I like this one. It's Ayurvedic herbal toothpaste. What is it called? Aromare, right? AUROMERE. It's backwards. I gotta flip the camera, but you get something like that. This is charcoal toothpaste. It's one that I use. Okay. Non-fluoride toothpaste. You don't want to, at the end of the night, the beginning of the morning, brushing fluoride into your teeth. Fluoride over time builds up in the pineal gland. So, yeah, throw that shit in the garbage today. All right, man, go get you some new one. right? And like Straight Panther said, you could also use coconut oil and baking soda for toothpaste. This is facts, right? You could also use that as a cheap alternative as well. So, you know, this is about self-mastery. You know, this isn't about me mastery, or this is about self-mastery. So I wish you all the best. Anyone have any questions before I get the F up out of here? Any questions, comments? And what I would like you to do at the end of this video, if you support me, if you want to see more of me, because again, I love this shit. This is what I love to do, right? But I need support in order to continue doing this work, or else there's no reason to be on here. And I'm not begging. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna get it regardless. But you guys want me here, want me on this platform, and enjoy what I'm doing, that I take 3 hours and all my hours to put these shit together, to break it down. Like, and this doesn't always have to be financial, right? The support could just be a comment on the video once it's completed. So please, after this video is dropped, I appreciate your comments during the video, but drop a comment on the video, even if it's thank you, even if it's like, I appreciate this, even if it's some insight that you got from it that you could share with somebody. At the end of the videos, when you see them, just drop something, even if it's an emoji. Those things help the algorithm. Those things help the channel grow. Those things help me to see that y'all are engaged and that I'm really providing a service. Or else, you know, again, I know this shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I definitely appreciate y'all. But again, anybody got any questions, comments, anything? Oh, you guys are welcome. Let me shout out y'all that are here, and that have been here. So shout out Straight Panther, Alaskan Avatar, Junkyard Jedi, FNFN Shaka, TTTTIA. Let's see. Think I got everybody. Maag L, MAAGL. And if you want a shout out, you could put it in here. The Modest Moore. Let's see. Philip Boone, the legend. Yeah, I got everybody. All right. Y'all ain't got no questions. Oh yeah. This is important. Today is 7/11, right? Today is 7/11/7, right? 7/11. 7/11. Okay, so those of you dice shakers, right? You know, roll that 7/11 in Vegas, you got some paper coming, right? You roll that 7/11 in the game of CeeLo, what they call CeeLo here in New York, right? You got some paper coming. So Alaskan Avatar's like drops of music. I got you. And I'm taking this Alaskan Avatar as a sign and symbol, all right? Because you're not the only person who said this recently. And I've been kind of like sitting on shit and like not really, because I'm establishing things, but that's something that I have to make a priority because it's been coming up a lot lately, even in my subconscious. So it's coming. I promise you, it's coming. And with that being said, I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna say peace, power, and prosperity. We almost at the 3-hour mark, man. Like this video again. Share this video. At the end of my videos, if you support me, please drop comments, even if it's just an emoji, right? Yeah, Jedi. Yo, Junkyard Jedi, not just for me, but if you he's doing a competition. You know, I actually shared some of his competition on his page. So I wish you the best, Jedi. And Jedi got some fire beats, man. He got some fire beats. So yeah, Jedi, I'm gonna be dropping some stuff on with your beats, man. You know I love your beats. I already got a song written in one, so I just gotta lock in. And once I'm finished the book, which is pretty much finished, I just got to do some more editing. So that'll be done by the end of next week. The next move is music. So it's coming. It's all coming, y'all. You know, I used to think I was too old to do music, so that's why I never really went hard. But thanks to y'all, man, y'all, I appreciate the support. I appreciate the love. So yeah, y'all gonna have some music coming, and especially, you know, hearing Black Dot say that too, and a couple other people that have come on the channel mess with the music. You know what I'm saying? It gives me confidence to continue to pursue it. So I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. And peace, power, and prosperity to the tribe.